All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics Are Local. So today is, of course, the this is the second Friday, right, or the first Friday?
Yes. Yes. Second.
This is our second Friday. So tonight we have a really strong show. So coming up first at 6 o'clock, we're gonna have is that Dayvon Love, the director of
Dayvon Love. Yes. Leaders of Beautiful Struggle. LBS out of Baltimore.
Yep. So we're gonna have those that particular brother come up at 6, and then at 6:45, Zaire, we got Chino Ortiz.
Yeah. Chino and Sammy Giaz from Returning Citizens. There's a new coalition that's trying to come together to beat back a fresh push to bring Jersey back to being a state that ages up so many of our young folks, right? And we got a list of folks who've been through that already. Ugly gateway to mass incarceration. And we're looking forward to the work of this new coalition. That's what they're going to talk about. And right behind him, she's been on before
Mhm.
about her case, but she's still back and forth in court with this madness from these racist folks in South Orange. And I'm talking about none other than my little sister Lisa Davis from the Black is Back Coalition or Uhuru movement. We're going to give Lisa some love so she can lift that up. Then at 8 o'clock, Josie Gonzalez from Public Square Amplified is going to talk about the threat of the Trumpism to contemporary journalism and the continuing of her students and their community journalism class. They have a gathering coming up next week to earmark the moving forward of their work. And we just found out that Mr. DJ Rhino is going to return tonight.
Yeah.
Rhino returns. And it's been a long time, and it's about time that we get our young man back.
And we also just got a text from Dr. Umar. He said he got a consultation at that time, but he said if he finished early, he'll click on at around that time as well. So
Wow, okay.
we may get a chance to have him come on and just sort of talk about coming through tomorrow. So uh,
And to put a pin in that, for those who don't know, Source of Knowledge Bookstore is going to host him as a part of their summer outings all day tomorrow from 10 to 6. And I think Brother Umar will come in around 1 or 2. I forget. Well, I'm not sure what time he's going to actually come in on, but he's going to be the keynote speaker for tomorrow's gathering at Source of Knowledge, right behind the store on Treat Place. So look
Right.
forward to that. That's the context of us getting him on.
Yep. So let's go on and bring in our first guest, and I'll send Umar the link just in case he can come through. At about 8 o'clock this evening, sometime around that time, 8:30. All right, or before we get off the air. So let's welcome my brother to the show. Now, I just want to say up front, peace, my brother. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, my
You
brother?
can hear us. Devon, can you hear us?
Yeah, I feel like
Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah,
so. I hear
okay.
you now. The signal's
Okay.
been kind of in and out. I don't know if that's me or I don't know if that's
It might
y'all hear
be.
me.
Yeah, we hear you.
Well, you
We,
fine. Yeah.
yes, sir. It might be that guy in the
Oh, okay.
background.
I hear you. I hear y'all.
Yeah, might be that guy right there. You know. So because
Hmm.
I'm thinking about removing that guy only because last time
Uh,
he was scheduled to be on the show, he didn't show up, right? And we gave him carte blanche. See, but what he don't know, brother Devon, I can do this to him. See what I
uh-huh.
mean?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
peace, my brother. Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, I guess you can tell us what it's all about, or we'll shift it over, to the unfaithful brother over there, and let him handle the introductions for the show. Um, Peace, unfaithful brother.
The level of slander is so problematic, but it's all right. It'll be all right. I'm gonna take the Minister Farrakhan approach. I'm not gonna bash nobody black in public. It's all right.
Okay. I'll take the scripture approach. I'll love you no matter what. Ain't nothing you can do about it.
First of all, this has been a circular moment for me because me and Dayvon grew up together in Baltimore, high school classmates, debated together in high school. Kind of one of the people who went through some of my earliest memories with the things that made activism and intellectual warfare attractive to me, because we saw some things as very young adults that I think shaped us in some ways that took the scales off our eyes and made it pretty difficult for us to ignore the realities of white supremacy in the world. And so to see him on this stage and to see the amazing work he's done has been amazing. So I'm really proud of him, and I'm happy to share the stage with him in any way I can.
Well, thank you for that, my brother. So, why don't we jump right into it, man? And let's talk about the organization. How you got started, what it is you do, and let's kind of introduce that to people, my brother.
Yeah, so it's good to see you, Chris. One of the things that forms that actually shape the foundation of Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle is policy debate. Many of us that are founders of the organization come out of high school and college policy debate. And policy debate is one of the most rigorous forms of academic debate that exists. If you think about its history, many of the folks that emerged from the activity of policy debate were involved in the conservative revolution. You think about the liberation movements of the 60s and 70s. You think about what culminated the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980 at these civic institutions, but alongside them was the emergence of think tanks that provide the kind of intellectual architecture for the kind of emergence of the conservative right-wing response to the liberation movements that I mentioned before. And so policy debate, when we came into the activity, there was an academic and intellectual innovation in the activity of policy debate, which included challenging racism and white supremacy in the activity itself, in the kind of research methodology, in the pedagogy itself of policy debate. And that was University of Louisville out of the Pan-African Studies Department. And that culminated in the team of Liz Jones and Tanya Green, two Black women, to get to quarterfinals of both national championship tournaments, again, using hip hop, talking about racism and white supremacy and how it structures society, how it structures research. And so my college debate partner, who's also from Baltimore, he went to Louisville for 2 years, came back to Baltimore to debate with me at Towson. And I won a national championship in 2008. It was with using the Black aesthetics, so the Black arts movement, right? And using the scholarship of Amir Baraka and Larry Neal and Gail Addison and Celia Sanchez, along with a range of other important scholarship rooted in the Black radical tradition and challenging the norms and procedures of traditional debate. And so when we were done with the activity, we wanted to essentially use the skills that we got in policy debate, but be able to engage in the policy arena from a kind of a revolutionary Pan-African nationalist perspective. And so we looked around, we came back to Baltimore, we kind of looked around and noticed that many of the organizations that were advocating on the issues that mostly impacted Black people weren't led by Black folks. And if it were Black people in the leadership, they were beholden not to the community, but to the corporate sector, white nonprofit boards of directors. And so we formed an organization, not a nonprofit, but we actually formed an LLC, a business, because we were clear that if we were to form as a nonprofit, it would actually limit our capacity to confront the political establishment in the way we knew we would have to if we were serious about being a revolutionary force in the political landscape. And so this is 2010 when we were founded. And so, we engage in a lot of issues around juvenile justice, criminal justice, pretrial reform, reparations, and so there's been a range of things that we've done over the past 15 years. And I would say one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we're an organization that is a force in local and state politics, both in Baltimore and the state of Maryland. But the source of our power is our long track record of work amongst our community. Like, we've been able to move really significant pieces of legislation and build institutions and in ways that, you know, a lot of times what a lot of folks early on when we started would say things to me like, yeah, y'all gonna have to tone down some of that black stuff. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we haven't toned any of that down. And in fact, that's been the kind of the proof of concept and theory of change has been to be able to engage in the political warfare needed. And that the community, black people, is the source of our power and not proximity to white folks, foundations, clout, none of that stuff. It's really the community that serves as the base of our power. And so we're a think tank political advocacy organization, as I mentioned, been around for 15 years now, and have a really, you know, broad track record of work, both here in Baltimore and in Maryland.
So can we talk about some of the legislation you all have been able to get passed since 2010?
That's right. So our first major effort was stopping the construction of a $104 million juvenile detention facility in East Baltimore. So that was the first major victory that we had. This is practice that we're actually working to try to stop here in Maryland of automatically charging youth as adults. And so, you know, had they built that facility, right, that would have encouraged them to, you know, put more young people in the system. So that was our first.
We're going to have a segment on that happening in Jersey in a little while after you, right on this show tonight. You right on time.
Oh, that's
Keep
perfect. Yeah. And so, and I'll actually circle back to that because actually part of one of the major efforts we're working on now. Some of the other things that we've worked on is pretrial reform, right? So there was a period of time where there was about a couple of thousand people in the state of Maryland who were serving time in jail because they couldn't produce $500 or less pre-trial. And so we were a part of an effort to change the judicial rule such that judges had to exhaust all non-financial conditions for release before giving a bail. And if they give a bail, they have to give a bail that the person can afford. So that was, you know, that was another major effort that we engaged in. We also were a part of building the Baltimore City Children and Youth Fund. So we did was carved out 3% of the city's property tax dollars and then established a fund, a non-lapsing fund, that's explicitly for funding programs led by Black folks, community-based organizations. And so that effort actually started in 2017. The entity was formed and incorporated in 2020. And so it's existed since then. Millions of dollars have been invested in Black-led organizations. It's the biggest local grant maker to Black-led organizations that work with youth in the region. Another major piece of legislation, and this is more current, and one of the things we're actually most proud of, in 2022, our legislature determined that it would legalize recreational cannabis. And we were clear, regardless of whether you're a person that consumes or not, that is going to have an economic impact. And being that Black folks have been, you know, damaged by, you know, impacted by the war on drugs, you know, Black folks should get compensated for that. And so we worked on legislating a practice of reparations for the war on drugs. So we were actually able to craft and establish the Community Repair and Reinvestment Fund, where 35% of the revenues from recreational cannabis goes into a fund. Those funds come back to the communities impacted by the war on drugs at 24 jurisdictions in Maryland. Each jurisdiction gets a percentage of those funds. That percentage is determined by that jurisdiction's contribution to statewide cannabis possession charges from 2002 to 2023, such that those jurisdictions hit the hardest will get the largest percentage. And then each jurisdiction had to pass a law in their local county councils to determine how those resources are spent. So then what we did on the local level in Baltimore City was establish the Community Reinvestment and Reparations Commission, so that all those resources from the state that come to Baltimore City, and 30% of that fund is coming to Baltimore City, because Baltimore was the hardest hit. And so those resources are going to go into this Reinvestment and Reparations Commission. Each of the 14 council people select a person to serve on that commission. And that commission is charged with dispensing those resources. And so it's a pretty sizable amount of resources, actually one of the biggest investments in explicitly communities impacted by the war on drugs in the United States. And so we're still in the implementation phase. So this was something that 2022 was passed. It was put on the ballot. In 2023, we went to the local city council, passed the commission that I just mentioned. The commission has just been seated. So we're still working with that commission and are close to the moment when resources are going to start being dispersed. So that's one of the major things that actually that we're the most proud of. one of the even more current things that we're working on was establishing a reparations commission in the state for the entire state of Maryland to study the issue of reparations and to determine the best way to implement a reparations strategy to operationalize reparations in Maryland. And so we actually worked with the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland that made it one of their legislative priorities. That bill actually passed. Unfortunately, we've had a situation where our governor, first Black governor in the state of Maryland, the only Black governor in the United States, actually vetoed the bill. So part of the work that I'm actually working on is working to override the veto. And so that's
you're ahead of me. That's why I was going to come to that. I was definitely going to get on some of that, right?
So Dayvon, one of the things that I think that I am most proud of about the work that you've done over the years is the indigeneity of it. And what I mean by that is that it's grounded in not only a openly Pan-Africanist political line, also accountability to the communities that we come out of. How do we navigate from your political expertise? How do we navigate a situation where the first Black governor in particular would veto such a bill? It seems like, given the political landscape that even benefits, him in particular, that it would seem like a home run for him. How do we navigate? What should be our posture towards such an incident like that? Because that seems to be a very strange thing, because you would think that given the numbers that he would need to be elected in general, or any Black candidate in general for such an office would probably need an overwhelming amount of Black support. What should be our posture toward that? What would be your advice toward that?
And before you answer that question, brother, let's name the governor so that our people know who the first Black governor is.
Yep. So Westmore is the governor, and let me just give some context. One of the things that my organization is known for in the region is that we relentlessly are critical of the Democratic Party and Democratic Party establishment. I was actually kicked off the Democratic State Senate Committee as a result of my criticism of the party. And part of why that's an important
where did you say you were kicked off from, brother?
So in our legislative districts, there are state central committees that are like the local bodies in each legislative district for the Democratic Party. So I was elected to the Democratic Party State Central Committee, and I'll get into all that. That actually be relevant, and I'll explain that in a second. I was kicked off though because of my criticism of the party. So let me just talk a little bit more though about the aspect of our criticism of the Democratic Party that's relevant to the veto. You think about many of the states in the South that have large Black populations but are overwhelmingly conservative, right? Or overwhelmingly Republican. The Democratic Party has made a decision that it does not want to invest in building independent Black electoral infrastructure, because if it did, it would be able to capture those southern states like Mississippi, that's 37% Black population. Alabama has a 28% population. South Carolina, 25% Black population, right? See, these are states that if the Democratic Party were not the white supremacist party we know it to be, then it would invest, because it would be in its interest electorally to be back the Republican Party to invest in independent Black electoral infrastructure. But the Democratic Party will do everything it takes to win in the absence of Black people being able to politically practice the kind of sovereignty and self-determination that would be at odds with the corporate centrist core of the Democratic Party. So that background is important. And in Maryland, even though Maryland is a Democratic Party stronghold, our legislature has a veto-proof majority of Democrats. So in essence, and Maryland is 30% Black in terms of its population, has the largest Black caucus in the United States. So the reality is that as it relates to the concerns facing Black people, if Democrats were the answer, Black people in Maryland would be great. But clearly that isn't the case, right? And so that's relevant to the conversation about the veto, because fortunately over the past several years, my organization and many others have been banging on the Democratic Party, right? Particularly those in the legislature, to move further to the left and to move further in the direction of addressing our community. And what has happened is that the Black caucus in Maryland, unlike the Black caucus on the federal level, which is really like a cultural rubber stamp to the Democratic Party, the legislative Black caucus in Maryland has actually began to behave as an entity that can influence policy in the state legislature. right? So there was a time where the Black Caucus wasn't a serious entity, but the Black Caucus in Maryland is such that people covet their legislative item being a priority of the Black Caucus.
I need to stop for a second, Dayvon, because that's huge what you're talking about, right? And the fact that the work that came through that caucus that could give Governor Westmore a slam dunk.
That's right.
On that long, fearful conversation about reparations is a real tribute to some serious grassroots work coming out of the community. And of course, the Democratic Party in its racist punkiness, right, still don't want to go there, right? But I just had to put a pin in that because that is hugely important. That's where, those of our folks who, if you're going to be Democrat, you need to be fighting for making that Democratic Party answer to you and address your community.
That's right.
And I think the thing, Dayvon, that I think leaps out at me whenever I hear you speak, particularly as it relates to the sort of different kinds of, as Dr. Greg Carr says, Biden is a soft white nationalist and and Trump is a white nationalist, right? It's like, in terms of how do we analyze these things, I think that what's been I think difficult for me is I am aware that I feel like that some of the political nihilism, some of the unwillingness of our people to vote, participate, things along those lines, is because they see that it's kind of laid bare, right? When you're talking about the first Black governor that has a super majority veto in a bill like that is kind of really difficult, right?
And let me add because so part of why all of that context, so we were able to get the Black Caucus to take up reparations, which is something that individual members was interested in doing, and individual members had put in bills, but the caucus put in a bill as a Black caucus to do reparations. Now, I wasn't initially expecting it to be once they made it a priority, I wasn't expecting it to be something that would be that difficult to move. And so as it was moving through the legislature, I started getting word. And what we did was the other thing too, is a process thing. We meet with the Senate president, the Speaker of the House, or the chiefs of staff, and the governor every summer to just preview our legislative agenda. So each summer in 23 and 24, we laid out reparations as one of our priorities, right? So it wasn't, the governor's office wasn't aware, right, that this was something that we were looking to move. So we started getting word. Our legislature is in from January to April. I started getting word in February that the governor's office was making calls to try to kill the bill, which was perplexing to me because we had conversation in the summertime and there wasn't any issue that was raised with us. Then I meet with his legislative team who say that they actually prefer a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that they wanted to do an executive order that was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I told his staff, I said, look, you all are going to try to tell me what the distinction is. I know that the distinction is that Truth and Reconciliation is more palatable to white folks, that reparations carries the baggage of the revolutionary Black nationalist, revolutionary Pan-Africanist, militant Black political activity that he wants to distance himself from. I said, y'all not saying it, but I'm saying it. And that's what I'm going to tell people, right? And so as we get closer to the end of session where the bill passes, and he ends up vetoing the bill, and I actually had a conversation with him the day before the veto. One of the things that is clear to me is that his desire, that I think there are people around him and people in the Democratic Party establishment that want him to run for president. And it is my belief that the veto was about, I'm sure you all are familiar with the notion of the sister soldier moment. And I believe that the veto of the bill was more about his aspirations for higher public office, because I don't think he would have vetoed it, right, had those aspirations not been present. And it reminds me a lot of, when I think about what I know from elders that I'm in community with who know about the emergence of Barack Obama in Chicago and how many of those Black nationalists put Barack Obama on as a state senator that laid the foundation for him to become who he became, and how he turned his back right on that segment of our community. In many respects, I see the veto in that same vein, right? And so we're gonna fight vigorously to override the veto. I feel pretty good about the prospects. I think the Black Caucus has publicly called to override the veto. I'm checking up on them. I'm actually going to Ocean City next week because the legislators are having a convening there. I'm going to go there and make sure they're standing strong on the override. But that's the work that we're doing to override the veto on the reparations bill.
Let me back up if I can, because I want everybody to appreciate context too, right? One of the things that we ultimately want to turn this conversation in the direction is where the town is going now around the question of combating, some of the violence that has been stalking it, like we have been doing here in Newark. Now, when the two of you were that age, where y'all were, young debaters and whatnot, things weren't cold in Baltimore, right?
No,
I'm trying to step back and talk about just what was happening in the town and how was it that y'all were able to make it through those kind of conditions and to develop the kind of focus that each of you have developed and to come to do what you're doing now.
I don't know if Dayvon feels the exact same way about this, but there was a Kairos moment for me, and Dayvon was a part of it, and it kind of shook us to our core. So at that time, in order to be competitive in policy debate, you had to go to debate camp. Mr. Austin teaches that one every summer, things along those lines, and it's relatively expensive. And so we're two kids from West Baltimore. Neither one of us really have we don't come from wealthy families, things along those lines. So we worked in our debate coach's restaurant. And so one day we get there a bit early. We drive there. Dayvon and I drive there. We get there a bit early. And we watching these white folks standing around this bucket. They swishing some stuff around in their mouth, spitting it out. So we're kind of trying to figure out what it is. And so at that moment, I believe it's Dayvon that was trying to figure out what they were doing. And he asked the older gentleman that was a relative, I think father of our coach. And he stared at us for a little while. This white man stared at us for several seconds, what felt like hours. And we kind of like hanging on his every word. And he looks at us and says, well, we were going wine tasting. And wine tasting for you would be like going to Lexington Market and seeing many different kinds of chitterling. Right? And this is our coach's dad, right? And then we go to him, we go to the coach, and we kind of like, what is this energy? And he's like, look, it's my dad. I don't know what y'all want me to do. Basically kind of throws his hands up. And I think for me, what that showed me was that as intimate as you can be with particular individual white people, individual white institutions, et cetera, at the end of the day, your blackness is going to be the thing that's going to win the day, right? And so it was the same thing in debate, that when we were even in high school debate, there were all these small moments where it was clear that because we were who we were and we were from where we were from and we represented what we represented and said the kind of things in rounds that we said, that it was that there was just this energy to try to keep us in a particular lane and marginalize us to a certain degree. And so I think that it steeled us in some ways as we were reading different things and coming into a particular kind of consciousness. And then we both had our separate college debate careers and things along those lines. I think it steeled us against, it just made it clear that there was always going to be this need for a particular kind of Black consciousness, because whether we liked it or not, we were gonna get our moment and be reminded. And so institutionally, I think what Dayvon has done politically, institutionally through LBS, and what I've done in my teaching, coaching career has always been centered around that question, understanding that there's an inevitability to it. As much as we would like to avoid it, or the way people bastardize Dr. King and talk about content and character, Blackness still matters, right? That what Dayvon said about what the current governor of Maryland is, because he has larger political aspirations, he is at least under the impression that he has to separate himself from particular kind of radical Black sovereign kind of politics. And that's sort of what we've seen in general. So to answer your question, Baba Zaid, I think it just gets thrown in your face like that in a city like Baltimore, that is sort of southern and sort of northern, like you can't really escape it. And even though debate is run by, at the time was run by very well-meaning liberal, quote unquote, liberal white folks, that same virulent racist energy was really pretty apparent in pretty much everything we did, right? How about you, Dayvon? You feel similar to me?
I mean, I would say that because a larger part, see, Chris probably had a stronger sense of Black consciousness in high school than I did. It really, for me, took shape in college. And I think part of what really helped to shape, in addition to the style of
Where did
debate
you go to
that we
college
did,
at, Ron? Where'd you go to school at?
Towson University. So predominantly white
Right there in
university
Maryland.
in
Right there in Maryland.
Baltimore
Yeah.
County.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, but for me, I think because of the nature of our training in debate, the style and approach to debate that I was able to master as I was in college, when I was finished with debate, I knew who to look for. Like I was looking for elders with movement history, right? That would give me an understanding of what was going on around me. Because I think for a lot of young, Black youth, you don't have no real analysis per se of like what's happening around you. Like, things are messed up, right? You see the inequities, but may not have the language to explain it, right? And unfortunately, the education system, popular culture isn't set up in a way where it provides the language for people to really be able to explain the nature of why things are the way they are. So I was fortunate to have an activity that gave me the language. What it also gave me, though, was a sense of who to look for, right? Like who to look for in Baltimore, the elders that had movement history to ground my perspective. And it was central to how we build LBS.
So who are some of those elders? Tell us. And I want to acknowledge the fact that this is Black August, right? That's what this month is. Right? That young man to the left of you on the screen is a child of the Black Panther Party, right? The Baltimore chapter was one of the most, was under some crazy attack from its very inception, and that's a long conversation that I'll save for another time, right? But who were some of those elders that you were able to look up to at that moment?
Oh, absolutely.
Ain't a whole lot of them standing up like that no more. Just being real, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, Paul Coates and Eddie Conway, were some of the first.
And Marshall Eddie Conway was still very much in prison at that time. I want to put a pin in that.
Yeah, I mean,
in prison.
That's right.
One of the most revolutionary things ever happened, maybe in the history of debate, was Dayvon and some of our other comrades organized the first Black-owned, Black-run, Black-operated debate institute, and they named it after Marshall Eddie Conway, right? And so, like, and when he came home, he got a chance to see that infrastructure up close. You know what I'm saying? And so, and Dayvon, I don't know, we don't talk as much as we should, but I want you to know that was I was very, very proud of that, and what you did. And so most people will never really understand. Like, for those of you that don't know, most of the institutes that for debate are set up by some of the most powerful PWI universities in the country. And they not only operated it from a Pan-Africanist perspective with an open Pan-Africanist political line, but it was also held at a HBCU at Morgan State University, right? And so that level of, like, that's who this brother is. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to be here for you today, Dayvon, is because I think people need to recognize how important you personally are to our people and our history, and all the things that you've done has just been amazing. And so I also got an embarrassing picture of you too. So just so you know.
Uh-oh. No, I appreciate that, bro. Bro. Yeah. So Eddie Conway, when he was behind the walls, and Paul Coates actually tells the story that he went to Eddie and was like, man, these folks are for real. Like, you need to link up with them. So we'll call Eddie when he was behind the walls. And then, as Chris said, when he came out through UNGR, which was a decision in Maryland, it was like a technicality. He came home and, he would come to the camp. He was someone that we, would build with. There's a sister named, she's now a former Senator Jill P. Carter, who is the daughter of Walter Carter, who's a major civil rights figure, Black power figure, in Baltimore. She's one of the most radical elected officials that Maryland's ever seen. So a lot of the work that I've done.
What's her name? Say her name again.
Jill P. Carter.
Sorry?
Jill P. Carter. We want to follow some of that.
Jill P. Carter. Yep. She actually just
retired
from her seat. She just retired, so I think she's on the board of contractors now. But she's, she
Okay.
put in 20 hard years in the legislature.
Okay.
So like our reparations work, our criminal justice work, she was always one of the lead sponsors. And she really gave me an apprenticeship into the political landscape. Like a lot of the elders were like, if you're trying to do politics, you need to go kind of be with her. Ray Winbush, he would teach a class a semester. That's right. He would teach a class a semester at Towson. In addition, he was doing that at Morgan. So I was fortunate enough to have him as a professor at Towson, and continues to be
one of our very important scholars on reparations too.
That's right.
That's very important.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let me
Dayvon, let me ask you this. One of the things that I've always appreciated about you, and you had this even when we were really, really young, is kind of an appreciation for the grounding of history and grounding things in history. How did the scholarship around the Black radical tradition, how has that influenced the political work in the present? I know you're a big Cuba Harrison fan, things along people along those lines. You kind of talk a little bit about that, like how a deep Pan-Africanist reading and politics have influenced that the current political work.
Yeah,
how you leverage that historical information.
One of the most important things about my work, I was able to start real young in terms of building LBS, and we were really committed to the methodology and worldview of revolutionary Pan-Africanism. And one of the things that is an instinct that I think a lot of people have when it comes to like how to be effective in the political landscape is the thinking is, I got to get put on, right? I got to get clout. I got to be in proximity to these mainstream institutions so that it can make me a thing, it can make me a force. And one of the things that we were clear about is that if we were going to wield power in a way that would allow us to do revolutionary political work, our community would need to be a source, right, of that power. So, and unfortunately, over the past 60 years or so, there's been a diminishing of the importance of independent Black political institutions as the basis for engaging in political work. I think what has happened is that the specter of integration as a political inevitability has created this dynamic where people don't even think about like building an independent Black political force. Because of the perspective and being grounded in history, I was clear that, again, if we're going to actually do revolutionary work, we need to be an independent Black political organization, and that we need power that again emanates from the community. So I would say that grounding in history is what gave me that clarity of vision to see that to the extent that we're going to actually be effective, it's the slow, mundane, unsexy work of delivering for our community on a day-to-day basis over a long period of time. So the success and impact of LBS wasn't quick. I think too often people are looking for like, what are the quick ways to have an impact? But because of a commitment to the perspective and worldview, right, that comes from understanding the history and understanding that if we're going to have power that's sustainable, right, power that, again, truly emanates from Black people, then it was going to take that mundane build of power over time. And so I would say that to me, particularly in the realm of engaging in political warfare, and that's the other piece too. I think too often, people's belief in America as a place that has the capacity for justice for Black people clouds people's vision of what's really at stake. See, for me, I'm clear that politics is about the contestation for power. It's not about inclusion. It's not about participation. It's not about how do we get these white people to recognize our humanity. We need to be contesting for power, and we need the instruments necessary to effectively be contesting for that power. And so that analysis, again, grounding in history, right? So you read, Black Reconstruction by Du Bois, right? Back towards slavery, right? There was a time when America could be a multiracial democracy, white labor sided with white capital to engage in the terror of Black people, right? Derek Bell, right? Critical race theory, the permanence of racism, right? That analysis made it clear to me that I'm not trying to get these white folks to see
interest convergence and all that. Yeah,
we were clear that we need to build power so we can make these people do things that otherwise they wouldn't do. And so that historical grounding is what provided that clarity of vision to understand how we needed to be constituted to be a political force.
Ed, you just want to jump in.
let me ask you a question, Brother Townsend. Did I hear you? I'm sorry, Brother Deshaun. Did I hear you say that Townsend University is a predominantly white university? Did I hear you
That's
say
right.
that?
That's right.
Wow. You know, that's
And,
interesting because I
and
have
for the record, Brother Riley, it's crazier than that. Literally, there's this street called York Road, and so when you cross York Road on one side, it's Towson University. York Road on the other side is a 88-90% black community on the other side.
wow. You
So
know,
if you want to know what like real urban segregation look like, Baltimore is like the quintessential city to study. Like,
you know, I say that, Brother Townsend, because my niece actually has a scholarship to that university and moves in on the 19th to Townsend University this month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, she had spoken to a number of black professors down there who are on that campus. So they supposedly have some really good black college professors down there. Is that true or not true?
I mean, it's like most white, like many white institutions where you got your pockets of stuff that's useful. I mean, there's some professors there who, like my academic advisor, is Don Wards, political science professor, solid brother, helped, provide me with some understanding, some scholarship. So there are pockets, and if she's interested, like my degree is in Black Studies through the Interdisciplinary Studies Department. So my academic advisor allowed me, because they had a minor in African American Studies. So I was able to kind of piece those different courses together to kind of craft that. So there are ways to do it. It's really about just, she got to find her people.
You know what? We're gonna have to get your number, brother, to lean on that to make sure that, while she's at that university, they don't beat up on her to the point where
and for the record, they fought wars on Towson's campus where a white student union was formed on the campus, and they were doing night patrols looking for black folks on the campus and all that. Like
recently?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and I think the thing that I think is so amazing about you, Dayvon, is, I'm biased because I was your high school debate partner and we went through some things together and we saw some things. I'm biased in some ways, but I think you are a emerging blueprint for what the 21st century black politician ought to be. I really do. I believe that. And I think the other thing is, I think that you're probably the juxtaposition for what we don't want a black politician to be as well. Right. Like I think that at times we believe that because a person is, you can speak to this too, just because a person has our melanin content does not mean that they have our interests at heart, right? And so oftentimes we will vote for somebody on the strength that they look like us, but they don't necessarily have our best interests at heart,
Yeah, I think, you mentioned Hubert Harrison. There's a quote of his I use a lot, which is, he says that prior to the Civil War, when you think about the relationship between black people in the United States, prior to the Civil War, chattel slavery enforced by brute force. After the Civil War, wage slavery enforced by starvation. And so we think about like the plantation metaphor, many of the elected officials who are in office weren't produced by black people. They know what fundraisers to go to. They know what foundations to be cool with. They know what labor unions. They know what corporations. And so by the time we see them on a ballot, they've already been curated, right, by a corporate sector that has picked the black folks that come before us. So when I'm engaging elected officials, I'm not engaging them from the perspective like you work for me, because I know we didn't pick you. But what I am clear about, though,
say you selected before you elected.
That's right. And so for us, the method is, how do we organize ourselves effectively enough that we can weaponize the community against those who carry out the interest of their corporate masters, such that it costs them. We have to make it cost. It has to hurt for them to carry out the duties, the responsibilities given to them by our enemies.
That is the expression of power. That's right.
So
that is a demonstrable expression of power. Right on, son.
Let me
apologize to both of y'all too. Ed, I'm gonna get out the way, right? I have been cussing out Democrats since the emergence of Bill Clinton, because some of us saw what was coming. He represented the absolute mark to the right of the Democratic Party in the name of reclaiming the centrality of the white male, the Southern white male, right? And we some of us knew where that was going to go. And this is back before he was elected president and whatnot. And so many, the majority, overwhelming majority of Black elected officials fall into that, that line of co-optability, right? That makes things so terribly frustrated for so many more of us who would love to get down, but ain't gonna get down like that. I just wanted to just put a pin in there. Ed, come on, jump back in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if we could visit, this whole idea around the Democratic Party. What do you think about what's going on in New York as it relates to Zoran Mandani? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's complicated because the major force behind Mandani is the Democratic Socialists of America. And, similar to the position that Black folks face when you think about the Soviet Union, where, having a counterforce, right, to U.S. imperialism is helpful for those of us engaged in revolution. And the DSA, while it is left of the Democratic Party, is a formation that is white culturally, its political line. Many of them are, former, Bernie Sanders, campaign folks who needed a political home, and DSA is where they went. And so in many respects, Mandami is left of the Democratic Party. That's good. I think that is objectively good for our community. It presents an opportunity, but we have to be intentional about that opportunity, right? Because the broader left's relationship to Black people, right, and radical Black politics has been a parasitic one, right? Where Black people are expected to capitulate to the kind of traditional left line. And whenever Black people talk about the importance of sovereignty and self-determination and us developing our own capacity for our own political machinery and infrastructure, they get anxious, right? And try to characterize that as, splintering the left or all of that. And so I think the opportunity for Mandami in New York is for Black people, and I know some folks that are doing some work in New York that are working on this, is to organize Black people to put before Mandami an agenda for Black people, right? And to force him to be responsive to that Black agenda. We shouldn't let him come up with his own, right? There need to be non-captured Black formations. And, one of the things that's interesting is, I saw a quote from Hakeem Jeffries, who's a captured corporate Black Democrat.
God in the wool captured.
That's right. To describe, DSA as gentrifiers. And again, that's me, it's one of those things that it is a true criticism, but it's a bad faith criticism coming from him. So it's really a question of getting those non-captured, people who are not captured by the Democratic Party and the corporate centrist core of it, to present Mandami and his base a Black agenda and forcing him to be accountable to what that agenda is. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's objectively good that he beat Cuomo. I think it's objectively good for Black folks that hopefully he gets the seat. We need to make sure we do our part and hold him accountable to our interests, and not let these white leftists determine what's good for Black folks.
So I
curated white leftists. I'm trying to be polite. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry. Now, I know we got to get ready to wrap up too. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got to bring you back because we really want to get into this dialogue with you. As you said, you guys are banging on the Democratic Party, right? And one of the things we notice here is that particularly in New Jersey, we had Mayor Baraka who ran, here, and of course the majority of Black leaders did not support our brother. and of course he could have won if but for the black church having held the line, he could have won, right? But they didn't even hold the line. And so now we're left with, a white woman who really has no real connection to the black community other than those black folks who decided to support her for one of the things you said as it related to Governor West. They have other political aspirations, and so therefore, standing up or defending the black community and defending our opportunity to have the first black mayor whose agenda of black people would be on his mind every day he woke up, would not have to make a call to black people and say, oh, what's important to you Negroes today that I need to speak about? No, he would know. So we're going to need to come back and have a further dialogue.
But and I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this real quick before we let Dayvon go. And this might be unpopular, but I think based on how we know political operatives work, and based on how we understand large-scale political entities to work, and how vigilant these organization institutions are. Number one, the fact that someone like a Ras Baraka, given what he did on the ground in New Jersey as it related to the water crisis, et cetera, and things along those lines, and how he holds a black men's meeting every month and kind of could sway that agenda. And because for a person like a Dayvon Love, who's a public policy director of an extremely effective black think tank that has its hands on the pulse of the black community in the Baltimore and DMV area, because these two people individually were not featured at the Democratic National Convention, and because these people at all, and because these people were not on the forefront, lets me further know about just how entrenched in white supremacy the Democratic Party really is.
Yeah,
I think one of point. Damn popularity.
Yeah, one of the things I'll leave you with. I mentioned this story in the beginning about being on the Democratic Party State Central Committee in Maryland. In the 41st Legislative District, it's the northwest part of Baltimore City, and at the very tip of it, at the northwest tip, there's a high concentration of Orthodox Jews. Many of them are avowed Zionists. Right now, the district itself is 62% black. But they have a very strong, concentration in that part of the district, and they vote at very high numbers. And so, we were, my mentor, I mentioned Joe Carter, who at the time was a senator, noticed that, and there's a councilman who's Orthodox Jew, who's a Zionist, and they put together a slate. So there are 8 members of the Democratic Party State Central Committee in each legislative district. And so Yitzi Schleifer, councilman of the 5th District in Baltimore City, put together a slate, including himself and 7 other Orthodox Jews who are all avowed Zionists in a majority black district. So then Senator Carter recruits me and a few others to run for Democratic Party State Central Committee. Now, I'm a registered Democrat because the primaries are the only things that matter, right? So it's a strategic thing for me to be a registered Democrat. So I ran as on her slate, and 4 of her folks won, 3 of theirs won, and there was a wild card person who was able to get a seat on the State Central Committee. And that was important because we knew that it was likely that Senator Carter was going to finish her term or step down before she finishes her term. And as those State Central Committees, the most important role is to appoint the person that serves out the rest of the term. And then I'm sure, as you all know, incumbency provides you an advantage when you run for election. So we already had a person in mind that was set up to run that would represent our politics and perspective. The Zionists who were on the State Central Committee made complaints about attendance in May of 2023, right, when people were still shifting back from virtual to in person. But it doesn't come up until the end of 2024. And so when I have my hearing, so my letter, it just says about a string of meetings that I missed. But at my hearing, the conversation, and usually what happens is they give you probation and then you just don't miss no more meetings. What ended up happening is during the conversation about my removal, during the hearing where I had to present, what was talked about was my Instagram page where I make criticisms of the Democratic Party and talk about the potential of getting people to vote for a Green Party candidate for governor as leverage against the Democratic Party. So that was brought up in the hearing about my removal. And so, long story short, I was kicked off of the Democratic Party State Central Committee. I was kicked off because of my criticism of the Democratic Party. Right. So just provide an example. No, it's fine. I was able to, we appointed somebody that was important to get in the legislature, but just wanted to use that story as an example of like the Democratic Party does not have an interest in those that have a proven track record of actually advancing the conditions for Black people. As a person who did it. So at this point, it's not a theoretical thing. It's like a person who ran, and I was elected. I ran and was elected and was put off the State Central Committee.
Well, listen, man, we out of time. We have our other guests in the back, man, but we definitely are going to have to bring you back. But we need to ask you this question that we ask all of our guests. We are a political hip hop radio talk show. We've been around for 15 years, man. And we ask everybody this question. Everyone answered it except Reverend Jackson one night. He just sort of cussed us out in a roundabout way. But the question we asked, man, who is your favorite political hip hop artist, or what song you listening to that kind of keeps you motivated, my brother?
The organization Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle came from Talib Kweli's album Beautiful Struggle.
Nice.
That was the moment as I was coming into consciousness. So Beautiful Struggle. Okay.
Well, my brother, we appreciate it. I'm gonna get your number from Chris, man, and try to see if we can connect, because I told you my niece is starting down there at Townsend on the 19th. She's moving in. I'll be down there on the 18th. So I want to look around the campus and, see if there's any real danger that we have to be concerned, and maybe connect with some of my FOI brothers down in the area to see if we can make sure we give her a connection or connect to you, so that if she ever get into a situation before I could get there, maybe you all could get to her to make sure she's good until I can get there.
We'll look out for her. Let's connect. Right. We'll look out for her.
We'll make that connection.
I'll make sure to get that together, man.
All right. All right, brother.
All right. It's a pleasure.
You coming on,
proud of you, my man.
All right, Chris.
Peace, brother.
All right, peace.
Right on. Excellent. All right. There he is. Right. As we get ready to go into our next conversation. Chino, I don't know how much you heard of that last conversation. A sharp young brother out of Baltimore.
My main man.
Raising some of the things that, we getting ready to talk about, and that we raise all the time right here in the upsouth state of New Jersey. Everybody, I want to welcome Edward Chino Ortiz from Returning Citizens back to All Politics Are Local. For those of you not familiar with Returning Citizens, I'll let Chino in his opening remarks remind you of who they are, what they do, and how they came together, right? But he's here to also brief us on the coming together of a new coalition to combat a fresh wave to make Jersey once again a state that is the harmful aspects of its criminal justice system would once again go back to aging young heads up for not just adult court and adult prison, but long sentences in prison. And then, Sammy, we see you coming in, right? And you had a taste of some of that bad medicine, right? We want to make sure you tell your story in this conversation too. So welcome both of you to All Politics Local. Sammy, it's your first time with us, right? But Chino, go walk us back. Remind everybody about just what the world of Returning Citizens is, and why y'all get down the way y'all get down.
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. Always a pleasure to be on All Politics Local. That was a really powerful conversation that was having. I caught the tail end of it, but some topics, man, they can go for months, for years, because they really that deep, right? And real. But my name is Chino. I'm justice impacted. Went to prison when I was 19. and I served 30 years of my life in prison. When I was inside, I saw, my brothers that I grew up in prison with come in and out, not, once or twice. Some brothers came in 6, 7, 8 times. I'm like, dang, on skid biz. And I'm like, yo, like, really, I'm trying to get out of here. You keep coming back like it's a vacation. And, brothers be like, man, Chino, it's hard out there. And I'd be like, come on, it can't be that hard out there. But when I came home in 2016, after, having the support of my family, when I came home, my family were outside those gates waiting for me. I had a roof over my head, food, clothes, everything I needed. You know what I mean? But even with that, I was struggling, right, with the culture, technology, right, and just society marginalizing brothers and sisters that are coming home, the system designed for us to fail. So, I created the Returning Citizen Support Group to make sure that our brothers and sisters, when they came home, they didn't just come home and walk out those doors and be like, damn, what's my next move? But that brothers like Sammy, myself, Tariq, and our sisters would meet brothers and sisters at the gate.
Meet him
They
at the
welcome
gate.
them,
Yes, sir.
meet them at the gate, welcome them home. With our brother Tone Henshaw, I got to give him his props. He started meet him at the gate with Ibrahim in Camden, and we just followed that suit out here in Jersey. But we created a support group to really support our brothers and sisters that are coming home, to make sure, and also the families that are impacted by the criminal system. Right, just creating a space where brothers and sisters can come together, can support each other. The families can receive the support that they need, and helping them process a lot of the things that, because we're not just a reentry organization, we are a movement. We do participatory defense, a model that was started out in Cali by Brother Raj. And, so we work closely with other organizations and entities and helping make sure that, we're dismantling all these systems and policies that exist. And I'm going to let my brother Sammy introduce himself, and then we can get into
Mhm.
the issue at hand.
So
Sammy?
can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got you. We got you. Come on in.
Okay, yeah, my name is Sammy Quiles. I'm a Newark resident. I'm also a returning citizen. I served 30 years of juvenile sentence. I was waived up as a juvenile sentence to 30 years, and I did every day of that sentence. Came home, graduated Rutgers University, Newark, summa cum laude, and then went right to work. So right now I currently work for an alternative to incarceration program here in Newark, New Jersey. The Newark Municipal Courthouse is Newark Community Solutions, but I work for the Center for Justice Innovation.
Let me stop you there, because that's an important piece too that often gets glossed over. And for all the work that we've done in Newark with our community-based violence intervention strategy, right? That was one of the important inner institutional beginnings, right? There's a young sister, and I'm calling her young because she all of y'all are younger than me, but I'm very fond of her. I call her Madam Procedural Justice, right? Judge Virginia Pratt, who was key in the development of that, right? So I want you to take a minute and talk about just what Newark Community Solutions does on that. Chino's talking about participatory defense and what that means for the brothers and sisters they got coming back, right? Procedural justice is what we're talking about, young heads going in, right? And what they're facing. Break that down for a minute.
So Newark Community Solutions has various fractions. So our program is an alternative to incarceration program. That what happens is you have individuals that find themselves in the municipal courthouse in Newark, facing exuberant fines or jail time for low-level offenses. It's no secret that Newark is, impoverished city. Individuals don't have the money to pay those fines, and conventionally it was levy a bigger fine that they still can't pay, or send them off to jail. And we're changing how that's done in the municipal courthouse in Newark. We also have a youth impact program, so that branch tries to deal with the disciplinary practices that you find in Newark schools. So instead of truancy cases going to court or suffering some of the status offenses that juveniles face, they go to restorative justice type programs, and the whatever consequences is faced, or whatever needs those who are truant in school, the youth themselves are the ones who delegate what that will look like. So, they sit in those spaces. So that's just some of what we do. We also have an eviction diversion program too, because we understand that the precursors to those criminal behaviors and things that that happen that have people in that system in the first place are things like substance abuse, homelessness, lack of employment opportunities, mental health issues, and things like that.
Right on to that. Right on to that. Right on to that. So, and this is not an easy subject to talk about because there's a lot going on that's directly related to what we're talking about. I reached out to some of our folks at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice and some others. I was talking to Hassan's Kirby and whatnot, who has got a similar story similar to yours, Sammy, right? About this whole notion of addressing the some of the really untold harms of prison system, the juvenile justice system in Jersey that really needs to be unlocked and addressed, right? And of course, as we come to this particular question, the coming back to aging heads up, right? We need to appreciate the context in which it comes, right? So, it's no accident that this rightward shift in the national stage is coming into our area and trying to drive this train. So Chino, bring us back to the forces that are trying to drive us backwards in terms of this whole paradigm that we're talking about. You muted, Chino.
Bad. I'm not
There
bad. I
you go.
apologize. Yeah, there was a couple of incidents in New Jersey. One was a carjacking and rich white kid driving a Bentley or whatever and 4 kids out of the city. But there was also a tragic shooting of a cop in North. And as you know, the feds slashed him up to waive him up as an adult in order to not have to deal with all these procedural and waiving him up. So in light of these unfortunate incidents, there's been legislation they've been trying to push to waive our kids up from juvenile court to adult court for burglaries and for carjacking. And so we are just doing a preemptory trying to stop these legislations. And so we created a coalition that Sammy's part of, which consists of Salvation and Social Justice, um, NAACP, the Return Center Support Group, Rutgers Legal Clinic, the OPD's office, and other law firms, private law firms, and organizations that are part of the coalition. And so about 2 weeks ago, Sammy coordinated and we had a meeting and we're trying to bring more organizations and community members to become part of this coalition. But most importantly, we're trying to bring in our youth because we want our youth to be leading these movements, but also for their voices to be heard because they are the ones that are directly being impacted. And then I pass it to my brother Sammy because like you said, he has that experience and he can shed more light on that. So thanks, brother.
Yes, so similar to what Chino said, what you see is the same pattern we've seen before. I don't think it's nothing new. It's the sensationalization of certain crimes that have been committed by certain youth. It's not, broad. It's not happening as much as the data doesn't say that there are youth committing more violent offenses or anything like that. It's just a sensational crime. So you have a murder of a police officer here in North New Jersey. You have the carjackings or home invasions in a city like Edison, affluent neighborhood, and they're blaming outside Black and brown individuals of color. So that's, the common norm. And then they use that sensationalization to make these blanket policies to where we got to go back in time and get tough on crime and things like that. Now, I know what it looks like because I was a product of the super predator era, right? So I caught my case was 1993. super predator era was already in the mix. I sat in a juvenile detention facility, fighting waiver. And then in 1994, I was finally waived up. And then in adult court, I was tried as an adult and sentenced to the mandatory minimum. So the super predator, myth, as it's now referred to, was very similar. Politicians, media took this Princeton professor's theory and ran with it, increased the penalties for juveniles and things like that at that time, based maybe on a handful of crimes that were happening, and then all youth paid the price if they found themselves in the criminal legal system.
Yeah, and I want to put a pin on two things. One, that's the beginning. Those are the early days of the Clinton era, right? Bill, the prison builder Clinton. That's who he was. Yep. With his boy, Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
Right? I want to put a pin in that, right? Because this is often a bipartisan thing, that this particular energy is buck wild coming from the right in the Republican Party today, but that ain't always the case, right? So I wanted to put a pin in that. Also wanted to lift up the fact that this particular incident that happened in Newark, this is a 14-year-old kid, 14 years old, right? Finds himself being confronted by masked men, right? Masked men coming at them, and the boy got one off, right? No one within the confines of the important levels of the system, or the press for that matter, because this is a press conversation that we're having too, unpack just what happened and what was wrong about that. Why is it okay? How is it normal now for masked men, whether they be ICE agents or undercovers or whatever other kind of police they be, right? How is that all right? And how is that? How are we to trust? They like to throw this word around. It drives me crazy when they don't use it don't apply it to us. How do we trust something like that with our safety, right? And then use the mistakes that come out of that to justify the advancing more harm into our community. I just had to put a pin in that so folks understand the context of where this is coming from, right? Y'all jump in and then jump back in as you see fit. You muted, Chino.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been working on closely with the OPD's office of the public defender, and also with other private attorneys that have been representing brothers like Sammy during for resentencing as a result of the state Coma hearing, or Coma decision rather, where the Supreme Court determined that the juvenile brain is not fully developed and they should not be sentenced to life or extended time. So we testified at Sammy's hearing. We testified at numerous Coleman hearings, and we were able to get these brothers out of prison. But we're talking about kids, and the science evidence showed that the brain doesn't fully develop until you're 26, 27, I believe. So we have to make sure that our young children are being treated like any other children in this country that might have committed an offense, right? And we are a country of reaction. We are reactionaries, and we don't look at all of the total circumstances surrounding a lot of the social and issues that are occurring in our communities, right? Policies and laws that marginalize and criminalize our communities, right? That's just like the school to prison pipeline. You go to Barringer High School,
Absolutely.
you go to these high school, and you got 6, 7, 8 armed guards, not guards with flashlights. These are guards with guns, armed, and our kids are going to metal detectors and they're being treated like criminals, right? So all these policies are geared towards criminalizing our community, our children.
I know.
Now on one front though, brothers, we have an issue where we have folks who go into schools and shoot those schools up. right? So that's on one issue, on one hand. On the other hand, as you all know, we have the issue with, being targeted, right, by other folks as seeing us as the enemy or seeing us as the criminal. That seems to be a very difficult line for them to cross. Um, but I think that brothers like yourselves, though, have to be entered into the mix to the point where I think that because we hear this all the time, where they say, oh, when something happens, to young people, and police officers are the ones who, perpetrate that violence against them, they say, oh, he needs more training. Is it really about more training, or is it really about having people stationed in those environments with them, like the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma, and say brothers like yourselves? Is that really what it's about? Because it doesn't seem to be the training is really working, right? Because we had Dr. DeLacy Davis on, I think week before last, and we were talking about the brother in Florida who was punched in the face, right, by a police officer because he was stopped because he had his lights on, because they said he didn't have his lights on.
He have his lights on in the daytime.
Right. And so there was violence perpetrated against him, and had he not recorded it, I'm sure there would have been, some sort of different narrative that was being told. So I guess the question I'm asking, is it really a matter of training? Because DeLacy Davis said it's really more a matter of where you at when those events happen, right? As opposed to training. What say you?
Yeah, really quick. It's a culture, right? I don't care how much training you give people, right? Until you dismantle that culture that exists in our community, that is oppressive towards our Black and brown people, right? And I ask a question, right? I always ask people, when was the last time there was a mass shooting in the city of North? Right? All the mass shootings occurred in suburban areas, right? And I visit suburban areas, and I go to the schools, and it's only one guard versus our communities where they have 8 armed guards. And so it's culture that exists in our government that was created back in the Jim Crow eras that are designed to oppress and marginalize our community. And I'm going to let Sammy
Yeah,
touch on that.
I want to add, but I wanted to make sure that I keep it on the youth, right? So now, this collaboration and the report, it all stems from a report, right? And that report came in unison with the Human Rights Watch. So the Human Rights Watch released the report, and they showed the racial disparities of youth who either end up in the youth justice system, don't get waived up to adult court, and what it looks like here in New Jersey. So that's very important. So now the title of that report is something that I, contributed to in one of my statements in preparing and helping Amanda Level author that report. It was Kids You Throw Away. So let's not make no qualm about it that it's deliberately who the system is designing, is designating to be, fodder for that system. You know what I'm saying? It's very racialized, it remains very racialized. And the brain science that Chino referred to earlier, it should apply to every child. But when you look at it systemically, it does not, and that's an important factor because it ties back to that culture of, carceral logics, where you see carceral logics inform decisions, even in the K through 12 school system, in community centers, everywhere you go. So it's important to, to understand. And then I believe it was Mr. Riley, you used the word target. So imagine these youth that are, in these communities, like the community that I reside in, that may have not inherited the best socioeconomic status. They are Black or brown, they didn't inherit the best of communities. They didn't inherit the best of schools. And for lack of a better term, some of them have shitty ass parents or don't have parents at all. So now they are targeted because it's easier to continue to, funnel them through the system and punish than it is to throw resources at these young people.
I'm trying to pull. Go ahead, Ed.
So you're absolutely right. We had another brother on as well. Zahid, you remember the brother who came on and he was telling us that we were talking about the police, but he was talking about what the brother Sammy just said, that it has a lot to do with economics, right? The level of poverty that these kids are in.
Race and economics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so all of that is a problem. So it would seem like we need policy based around helping that whole economic picture too, because remember, one of the things the mayor was trying to do, which is what some other black mayors around the country was doing, which is what they got from Dr. King around guaranteed income, right? Trying to create policy by which you can take these families that are in poverty and somehow give them a guaranteed income to help increase their family's economic situation, thereby, right, giving them better opportunities and better options, right? Because, for some of the decisions that these kids make, i.e., let's say selling drugs or committing crimes, is usually based around economics, right? And it would seem to me that we need policy with that. But until then, how do we help these young people, one, stay alive, right? And then two, how do we work on this whole cultural behavior that these police officers have? Because as Dr. Davis says, it's not really about training because that's not working. So what do we need to do, right? You brothers, have not only gone through that and served long prison terms, right, as young men, but now you come out and we're still having those same issues, right? So that's why I'm saying, yes, we need what the mayor's done, the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma, because he had a meeting last week, Zahid, you were there, where he talked about how, crime in the city has been down and so how effective the office has been. But it seems we need to do more to be able to help secure these young people and prevent them from A, being murdered, and two, being put in a situation where, you have mass police officers, right, who jump out of vehicles that are unmarked. And remember, if you young and you in that culture, you think that's your enemy coming. You don't think
right.
He's coming, right?
Absolutely.
Because your enemy,
no matter the size or the age of your brain. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So because that's how your enemy come, right? So wasn't somebody who was dressed in a police uniform and their face that you could see, right? And so I guess I'm asking, and of course the Lacey Davis is the professional here, but I'm asking you brothers who have been on the inside of that, how do we do that, right? Because yes, you guys can work with us on the legal side when it comes to working with judges and working with lawyers and trying to work through that and the sentencing process and all of that. But it seems like we've got to cut this thing at its root, and that is the culture of behavior amongst these police officers. How do we do that?
Yeah, Sammy, I'll go after you, bro.
I mean, I have no, oh yeah, there goes the report. Thank you for that, side. But yeah, I mean, credible messengers, we in these spaces now, of course, there's never enough of us. As everyone on this call knows, this, this work is heavy. there's no days off. It's constant, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you have the lived experience because you're passionate about it. You know what the ramifications of leaving it, ignored, unanswered, undeserved, underserved. So I'm not sure I have an answer to that. I don't believe that you can reform a system that,
built
was
a certain
embedded.
way.
Huh?
Was built a certain way. Go ahead.
Built in slavery, during Jim Crow, you know what I'm saying? I'm not of that belief. I'm absolutely not of that belief, so I don't know what that looks like. I know we've made progress. However, we're still, in my opinion, there's still this ceiling. You know what I mean? That returning citizens, formerly incarcerated individuals, people with criminal convictions, can't break. So, just to share one of the hypocrisies with everyone in the group, for example, my passion is to work in the K through 12 school system, right? I know how important that is. Because I have a violent felony on my jacket that has nothing to do with Megan's Law or anything like that, I'm forever precluded from working in the K through 12 system. But remember, those same school systems send their youth to us after school so we can mentor those that they have deemed troubled youth. Could you imagine that hypocrisy?
Yeah.
But we're trying to change a system. So, if you're not going to let me work inside that system, it's, a problem. It's definitely a problem. So,
yeah, it would seem like we need legislation around that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
To be able to get that changed, because it would seem
once you've done your time,
absolutely,
that should be it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. America is built on the redemption script. The redemption script only applies to certain individuals with, a certain phenotype and a certain socioeconomic status, right? You have to have military power, you have to have economic power, you have to have political power, and you might have to be charismatic or whatever. So that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think that our systems needs to be dismantled. Police department needs to be dismantled. The court system, the judicial system needs to be dismantled and built from the ground back up, right? Because these institutions were built during times that our country, and it's still going on. I mean, it hasn't stopped. But one of the problems too is like, when brothers like myself, Sammy, and other brothers try to get into schools, right? They don't let us in, right? And we want to, build with our youth, build with our kids, and we going in there doing it for free, no charge. But that's part of the system. They don't want us going into schools. They don't want us going into different spaces where we can reach our youth, because the system is designed the way it's designed to keep us black and brown communities marginalized, to keep our children, to keep these prisons filled with our children.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And I would say right underneath that, and one of the low hanging fruit is the conversation that we tried to push during the so-called George Floyd era, when the call started made it to defund the police, and what that ultimately is at its most basic expression is halting the overinvestment in police.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Halting the divestment in our communities. Mm-hmm. Right. And instead of the over policing of our other so-called police, some of those money should be invested to address the conditions that are producing the situations that are finding our young folks getting caught up in the things that some of us have been caught up in. Right. Mm-hmm. So just, rounding out the conversation and rounding out the circle. Good conversation, brothers. Good conversation. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chino. You're going to jump in. Keep on.
No, brother. I mean, these are conversations that, we have on our Thursday support groups. How do we, change these narratives, right? And so one of the things that we're doing as an organization is we just started a union, the Returning Citizens Union. We're building a chapter here in Essex County. And our goal is to build chapters throughout the state of New Jersey and throughout the country, right? Because we have to be able to build power so that we can vote people out and vote people in that subscribe to our beliefs and philosophy so that we can dismantle these systems.
Right on to that. And I may have some things I might try and map up for the Patterson area and bring you all in to talk with some heads that I'm likely to be working with soon. I'm waiting for that shoe to drop for it to be final. But yeah, right on to that for sure. Tell everybody where you at too, Chino. You mentioned the Thursday meetings. Where you at?
Yeah, we meet every Thursday at 32 Prince Street from 6 to 8 p.m. We always have different community members and partners that come, families. We can really start our relationship support group back up in September. That's one of the things that we struggle with is in relationships. Having spent decades in the carceral system, it's difficult. Trusting, that's one of the issues that we have. And just, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. So these are part of our traumas. But yeah, every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at 32 Prince Street.
And 32 Prince Street, by the way, is the Greater Newark Conservancy. A few years ago, that area was just run over and nothing, right?
Mhm.
So the Greater Newark Conservancy is a genuine, eco-friendly green space, very inviting, very healing. And it's that place where you can just come down from that hyper stuff that we have to carry with all the energy that we got to deal with the harsh conditions that we face in our streets. So I just wanted to lift that up. Let me ask you one last question as we wind down, we just touched on it, and she's due to come back here. She hasn't been here since she was elevated to being the head of the Office of the Public Defender. Right? You mentioned the role of the public defender in the coalition, and in the work and trying to combat this other thing. But the public defender is going into a place where it too needed to go, right? That we want to lift up to that, because we're looking for some transformation in that space, right? And what I'm talking about basically is holistic defense, right? Share your thoughts and your observations on the direction of the Office of Public Defender.
Well, first of all, Brother Zaire, Jennifer Saletti, who's the lead public defender for the state of New Jersey, her husband recently passed away. So I want to extend my condolences to her again. But yeah, with the leadership of Jennifer Saletti and attorneys like Joe Russo, Alicia Hubbard, and so many different attorneys with different visions, right? And it's still right because it's a culture, right? So they've made some progress, but there's still more progress. But they've been hiring a lot of returning citizens, and so that's a
Sharuka's
plus,
working
right?
with them, isn't he?
Yeah, Saruka's working with them. The sister Myrna, they just got pardoned. She's working with them. Brother Russ, Carrie Moose, Quincy Sprue, he's working with them. And we're trying to get as many returning citizens into the OPD's office to help change that culture. But I have to give Jennifer Saletti and her team a lot, props because they are changing the culture.
Yeah,
Sammy, you
right
want
on.
to?
Yeah,
And
no,
then
I mean,
go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
I would just to add, there's an organization that's working with the OPD now that's called Partners for Justice. So Partners for Justice is the organization that's hiring formerly incarcerated, directly impacted individuals to be mitigation specialists, investigators, and stuff like that for different branches of the public defender's office here in New Jersey. Those branches that participate with the program. And I know, off firsthand, several formerly incarcerated individuals who are now doing that work and are excelling at that work. So their mitigation is getting men and women home a lot earlier. They're getting services that they need because precursors to them going in may have been inadequate housing, may have been domestic violence issues, may have been substance abuse issues, trauma that was never,
unresolved trauma. Yes, sir.
Unresolved trauma from their youth. So I want to shout them out. However, Zaid, I'm very, very critical of systems I still say that, we're doing a lot of work. We're still making entry-level salaries. There's still, a ceiling. There's still pushing the goal line back on us. So now you have to have a master's degree or a PhD to be able to, eat the way
Just make a living.
Yeah, the way you need to eat to stay afloat, so still problematic. And, I'm never going to shy away from, mentioning those things.
Mm-hmm. And we need to have those hard conversations. Right on to that. Right
Let
on
me
to that. I wanted this.
question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ed.
I just want to ask a question before we end this up. Have you guys had an opportunity to have a conversation with Roger Leone with regards to you guys being able to go inside the school system as opposed to outside of the school system? And remember, one of the things we just talked to with one of the brothers down in Baltimore, he was talking about they created legislation where a percentage of some of those organizations, right, funds were actually allocated to, the programs they had for families who could not afford to pay bail, right? So if we're talking about you guys making minimum salary, if there was legislation or whatever laws needed to be changed, the court system or whatever needed to be worked, what I'm asking is that have you guys had conversations with Superintendent Leone, and is that something that he's in favor of?
Well, no, we haven't had any conversation with the superintendent. We have been attempting, to have conversation with him, but you know, it's 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 not as easy. People in those positions, when they look at us like, what the hell, you don't know what you talking about. Like Sammy said, oh, you ain't got no masters, you ain't got no PhD, you ain't got a doctor's, those letters behind your name. So they look at you differently. They don't accept, that we are experts. And so these are part of the narratives that we are working to change. But definitely, I mean, if you know somebody that can connect us and set up a meeting with the superintendent, we would love to have that conversation with him. Um,
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
yeah,
And I
because remember the kids that need help don't have PhDs and master's degrees and bachelors either, right?
Hmm.
And so they damn sure aren't listening to those people readily, right? I think that
Exactly.
one of the things that, and you guys probably remember this, and Zaid, I know you most certainly remember when we were coming up, there was a program called Scared Straight,
Scared straight
Hmm.
out of Broadway prison.
and they would take the kids from Newark down to Broadway prison, right? And of course you had those conversations. It didn't reach everybody, but they used to say if it reached one kid, right, and that made the program that they were doing worth the money. Remember, there's over $1 billion that goes into the Newark school system now, right? So if we're talking about saving children's lives and preventing them from getting waved up, right, from juvenile to adult, prisons, then we need to be talking about how do we have those early conversations with these kids from somebody who can really say, hey man, let me tell you, like Sammy, I was a youth guy. Let me tell you, I did 30 years in the bed. Let me tell you what that was really like, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes the only time these kids really hear that conversation, at least one of the times I only heard it was I heard it from a Muslim minister named Minister Kadir, when he talked about having gone to prison for 5 years and what that was really like for him as a young man, and that
Hmm.
caused a lot of them young brothers who was going that way to join the Nation of Islam and turn their lives around. So I'm just saying, you're right. I next time brothers on the show, Zaid and I are definitely gonna bring that up in terms of seeing if we could be the catalyst to hopefully engineer some kind of meeting and see if we could just generate a conversation around that.
Definitely.
Barriers. We got to break down barriers so we can be in those
Yes.
places and spaces that we need to be in, right? As we wind down, yeah, you mentioned giving condolences around Jennifer losing her husband. We've also got some good news, right? One of your comrades just had a birthday, and so I heard somebody got married by the name of Chino Ortiz, and you know, look, he looked happy as hell to me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see, you know, brothers still trying to figure that out. I will say plainly, I ain't figured it out.
Yeah.
We want to congratulate you, brother, right?
Yeah. Well, it ain't easy, brother. It ain't easy, brother.
That's powerful. And then Ed is going to close us out with the ritual question.
So, you know, you all know we are a political hip hop radio talk show. We've been around for 15 years doing this. You know, what are you guys listening to from the hip hop genre that may, you know, encourage you or keep you guys, you know, fired up and encouraged while y'all doing this difficult work?
Well, you know me, man. I love Tupac. You know, I love his politics, his music, his artery. I always listen to him when I'm driving into work because, you know, he got some powerful stuff. I don't know Sammy. Sammy a little younger than me. I don't know who we listen to.
Lately, I've been selling out. I've been listening to a lot of Bad Bunny, man. You know, I'm older than that generation. However, his uplifting of Puerto Rico and, you know, the social ills and the exploitation that's going on in the island where I was born, you know, I support. He's very, very political. And then the way he chooses to give back and, you know, bring some, you know, infuse that island that is, you know, so impoverished and has so many problems.
Colonized.
Yeah, it's definitely a colony still to this day. You know, I support his music, so I find myself playing a lot of Bad Bunny lately and really, really listen to the lyrics.
Well, let me be an old head for a minute. Two things. This is Black August. Today is the 75th birthday of Dr. Mutulu Shakur, Pac's stepfather, revolutionary healer and warrior, right? And we just lost El Maestro, the great Eddie Palmieri. And then, oh my God, what he did for my generation before us was absolutely stupendous, right? He was indeed the maestro, right? One of the giants of coming up out of El Barrio, right? Taking the vibrant culture of Puerto Rico and putting it before the world like no other. So I just wanted to put a pin in that as y'all lift up your choices, right? We appreciate y'all, right? Chino, I'm gonna be in touch about a move I'm trying to make next month, hopefully, you know, on a new frontier in terms of where I'll be working. I'll close with the grim reality of the fact that the agency that I work for has closed down by virtue of the cuts coming from the federal government with this new administration. And, you know, our folks who are, you know, at the front of the high-risk intervention work that we do here in Newark Community Street Team, they had to cut their staff down to a quarter of where they were in terms of their high-risk interventionists. And that's the highest level of the credible messenger, right? In terms of on the ground, boots on the ground in the street, right?
Yeah.
So this stuff is real. Where we were doing well is where we should be seeing more investment, not divestment, right? And that's something we got to organize and fight for. So I appreciate the evolving space of y'all as voices, you know, raising those questions around policy and power that we need and being organized in the process. And then you're doing that. You're setting important examples that we all appreciate. So right on, and thank you for coming through.
Thank you, brothers. Appreciate y'all for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Right on, beloved. Right on. We'll be in touch and got to have you back.
Certainly be in touch.
Definitely.
You guys have a good night, good weekend.
Yeah, and tell out to Rick Mr. Happy B-Day.
All right, my brothers.
All right, peace, my brother.
Peace.
And look who's back. Uhuru. The great Lisa Davis is back in her black is back Uhuru way.
Yes.
Right? But unfortunately, she got to come back with some caca that's been messing with her and annoying the hell out of everybody who knows and loves her, and that's the fact that she is still dealing with a backwards legal situation in the up south, privileged fake liberal town of South Orange, New Jersey, where once upon a time at a rally of Palestinian solidarity in that town, where she was the lone black voice and happened to be the lone black female. She gets accosted by a racist, and when the police come in, instead of dealing with the fool who was trying to start some mess, everything got turned on her. And that she is still in court about that and has to go back to court in just another week or so. Lisa, take us back so we can go forward and figure out how to help you. And welcome back to our Politics and Local.
This happened March 31st, 2024 in South Orange, New Jersey. But I want to say, although it was South Orange, New Jersey, this is just a microcosm, an example of a much broader problem because it happens all throughout the United States. And I also just want to say that this is the same state in which, and I'm in no way am I comparing myself to this brother when I say this, but it's imperative that we see patterns where Chris Smalls went on a mission to try to deliver aid to the Palestinian people.
Food to people who were starving.
Yeah, people who were starving. And he was the only one who was abused. The only one who was physically abused. There were other people on that flotilla, other people from the United States. They were not Black. And yet no one, not one elected official, not one politician, certainly nobody from the Democrat or Republican Party said anything about that. And that's just a real horrible message that they continue to give because for the most part, the whole system knows if you're going to mess with anybody, mess with the Black person, which is what they did to me. And unfortunately, we have just too many people who look like us that are going along with this. And it's just so imperative. It's so important for us to really examine what is going on here and examine it from the micro and the macro position and say, what are we doing? Are we really advancing things or are we allowing things to go backwards on our watch? It is an absolutely ridiculous case. I heard all these witnesses. It's recorded, and this man, this Zionist, comes running and screaming at us, and at some point he gets into my face, and I demand that he back off, and and the police are blaming this on me. They're saying that I organized this without a permit. I didn't organize this at all. I don't know where they got out of their heads or out of their butts, but it really how they came up with this to sit there and say that I was the one who organized it. It was a white officer who, for whatever reason, his name escapes me right now. But he's the one who wrote up these false reports and said that I organized it. And then he also said I was using a megaphone without a permit. None of this is true at all. But it doesn't even matter what he said because the municipal prosecutor who's bringing this forward, and his name is Racia Montelis, he happens to be Black. The chief of police of South Orange, under which this happened, Ernesto Morello, Black. I mean, you clearly there is a video of this man yelling and screaming at me and me defending myself against him. And yet they are coming after me. And even though this happened in around about 20 people who were there. We were all, pro-Palestine, which is our right to be. We have a right to protest. It was demanding a ceasefire against this horrible genocide that is going on. And yet they came after me. The state of New Jersey, the same state that, and it is, although this says South Orange, it happened in South Orange, it is the state of New Jersey versus Lisa Davis. It is the state. So, and the court date is going to be next Friday, August 15th, 12 o'clock p.m. It's going to be in Maplewood. The address where it is going to be is it's the South Orange. Hold on a moment. It's
1618.
right, South Orange Municipal Court, 1618 Springfield Avenue in Maplewood, New Jersey, 12 o'clock p.m., room 1. And let me just say this. Whenever I go to that court, it's so interesting to me because we all know that South Orange, and for those who might be listening who don't know, first of all, South Orange borders North and Orange and East Orange, so it wasn't like I was in the boondocks, but I may as well have been. But South Orange is predominantly white. Maplewood is predominantly white. However, whenever I go to court, I've been to court now behind this about 4 times, and the majority of the defendants are Black all the time, overwhelmingly so. And this is a municipal court, so a lot of these people are facing fines. So, hey, they're making a whole lot of money from us.
Yeah.
They're making a whole lot of money.
That's the soft wheel of racial profiling, doing what it does. But this is not now. I want to just unpack your case a little more, right? I know you have an attorney. I'm glad you do, right? Just one of the things that boggles me that you're not being charged with assaulting a police officer or trying to kill nobody. Why is this proceeding taking so long to play out?
Because they know that they can do it. They know that they can. They know they literally manufactured this while giving a strong message. Let's be clear, giving a strong message that there are communities that they're going to protect and do anything that they can to protect, and that there are the communities that they know that they can frame in however they want to, that they can come after, that they can abuse. In the meantime, in the state of while this is going on, the state of New Jersey is trying to pass a bill, and I'm not exactly sure where this is right now, but to basically make it even more difficult to criticize Israel, to define criticism of Israel as being anti-Semitic or something to that extent.
Yeah.
And they've been doing all these kind of things, all these laws, all these things that like they passed up in West Orange, they even think in South Orange, primarily focusing on. Now, I want to just be clear when I say this, because there are so many people in the Jewish community standing up against what is going on. So I'm not saying this at all as an attack on the Jewish community, but I am saying it to show that Zionism brings a lot of political clout to the Jewish community, because they're making all these laws and all these kind of things to defend, the Jewish community from a Zionist perspective. But yet this stuff is going on openly in terms of the Black community.
By the way, just for clarification, the bill is modeled off of the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, and this is a bill that equates criticism of Israel with criminality, right?
Yes.
It definitely has dangerous implications, and it did advance in the assembly. It did advance in the assembly. It's got to go to the Senate next, even though there was full mobilization and protest that clearly established that this was not the way to go politically. It's not the way to go morally, but nevertheless, the will of that lobby, that is the Zionist lobby in the state, such that the mother fathers in the New Jersey Assembly, Democrats and Republicans, capitulated, caved in, and went along with it, because that's how they do. And the struggle around resisting that as it moves to the Senate should absolutely continue, right? Now, it should be said, Lisa, and I want you to say this better than I'm saying it, is that you were at a rally that was organized by folks who are basically Jews themselves, and you alluded to the fact that there is a strong Jewish voice that is protesting what's happening. in Gaza. They're sharpening that contradiction, right? What kind of support are you getting as you go into the trial, and how else can folks support you as you go into the trial?
Oh, I am getting a lot of support, and I have to say this. I've been working with a SOMA group that calls themselves SOMA, South Orange Maplewood, I think SOMA for Palestine or something like that. And I'm not exactly sure in terms of whether the people who have actually organized it were Jewish or not, but there's a lot of people from the Jewish community. I see a lot of them on the front line. So I just want to be very clear about that. But I have been getting a lot of support. The way that people can support, they can go to tinyurl.com/BIB Lisa Davis, and you can sign the petition. And also within the petition, there are action items that we are asking people to do. We are asking people to email Prosecutor Garcia Robert Montelis, and we are also asking people to email the South Orange Chief of Police. I'll put the email. The email for the prosecutor is gmontelis@southorange.org. Gmontelis, MOTILUS @southorange.
Just drop it in the chat right there. Just drop it in the chat where you're at.
In the chat.
Yeah, just drop it in the chat where you're at. Let's say private chat where we brought you in, right? And we'll advance that.
I don't see
Right?
the
I was
private
looking
chat.
for the petition. I have to find a
Right
petition.
here.
Too.
Okay, I'll put it right here.
And that should matter. It should. If folks actually respond and do what they need to do. There you go. I found your petition.
And while she's doing that, let's say the most important thing, folks, is that if you all remember back in the day, when Eleanor bumpers and all of those different cases were going on in New York, one of the ways that those folks in New York got justice is of course that they had community support, right? They had the courtrooms were packed. And that's why they if you remember the Amadou Diallo case, they had removed the Amadou Diallo case out of Manhattan because it was too much support. And then, of course, folks hopped on buses and went all the way up to Albany and still supported it. I say that to say that we need to make sure that we show up for Sister Davis. And that is the pushback that the prosecutor and the judge need to see, that she has community support, and that they see that the community is not asleep and recognize that this is an injustice. So we need to make sure that we show up in the system and put this on our calendar and are able to get there in order to support her. And we need to make those phone calls, right? We need to call the prosecutor's office. We need to call the judge's chamber. We need to make sure that they know that we are aware of what is taking place and that this matter needs to be dropped, period. The case needs to be dropped. And we need to do that, man.
I want to say I appreciate that so much. I really do. But again, this case is about the bigger issue. Also, by the way, you see, drop the charges right there. This was also happening while they were going after the head of the Uhuru movement, Amalia Shatella, and two of the other people who work within the Uhuru movement, Jesse Neville and Penny Hess with the Uhuru 3. They were facing 10 to 15 years in prison for speaking out against the United States government and condemning the role, in all these wars and everything. And this was happening under the Democrats. I want to be clear about this.
Right.
They came after me in 2024. So this ain't Trump. Although he is a part of this horrible system, and we really have got to start thinking in terms of Democrat or Republican, because so many horrors are happening under both. And it's almost like they are rewiring our way of thinking. And so, this was happening while they were going after the chairman, Omali Yeshitela, trying to put him in prison for 10 to 15 years. And they're still fighting this case, although they were They were found not guilty of the main charges, but they still came after them with some BS stuff about you didn't do it, but you were conspiring to do it, something like that. So they are fighting that as well. But I want to just leave people with this thought. The Haitian Revolution, when I think about the Haitian Revolution, and I think about what happened with the Civil War, because that's never told the way it needs to be told. Chattel slavery ended in this country because we rose up and ended it. Black people, our ancestors fought like hell and ended it. And you had the Haitian Revolution, which had happened about 60 years prior. And it began, I think, in 1791. So from 1791,
Right.
you had this tremendous victory. And then you had, by the time 1865 had come within the United States, at least chattel slavery had ended. That's in one person's lifetime. Our people didn't have anybody standing with them. The United States wasn't on the side of Haiti. Haiti didn't have Spain. They didn't have France. They didn't have the UK. They had nobody on their side but us. When we went into that Civil War, the North there was no guarantee that chattel slavery was going to end had the North won. In fact, the North said, we ain't fighting it for that reason. But our people, the determination, the spirit, the refusal to compromise, the understanding that we were all we had, but we were enough, ended it. But if you look at the time span within our lifetime, if we go back 75 years and we look at the way things are now, unfortunately, you got so many of us capitulating and voting for warmongers. And this gives a message that reverberates in all kinds of ways, that shows up for something like this, because they know they cannot do this to the Jewish community, but they know they can do it to the Black community. And you got Black people going right along with it. And these are the Democrats. We have always been our own liberators. And that's what I want to say. We have always been. It is us. I don't even really think about Trump so much. I think about us. What are we going to do? And I also just want to say one thing, if I may close with this. The Black is Back Coalition, we're having our 17th annual conference.
Yes, I want to lift it up.
August 23rd and 24th, the 20th anniversary of Katrina. We want everybody to please be there. Please register. I follow the principles of the Black is Back Coalition, and I got to just say this in terms of the way that the Uhuru 3 handled this case and won the way that they did. That was tremendous.
Yes, it was.
A tremendous victory. And how it was done is so important. So I'm going to ask everybody, please go to the blackisbackcoalition.org and register for this tremendous conference that we're going to be having. And like I said, it is the 20th anniversary of Katrina. And we say never again. That should never happen to our people again. And we will be the determinant. We will determine it. We are going to be the ones that are going to determine this. It will be what we do, us. And we have to understand that we are enough. We truly are enough. Of course, there's always room for everybody to do the right thing. But I want us to understand as Black people, we are enough. We have always been our own liberators. And it is what we do. And we should be giving that message to the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and anybody else, that we will accept no more of this and we will capitulate to nothing. Because as long as that continues to happen, we're going to continue to see ridiculous things like this. And again, look at Chris Smalls. Nobody came to his defense, period. I mean, nobody in terms of elected officials. So,
People came out, though.
No, I mean, elected officials.
100%. 100%. But the people definitely came out. Damn now.
But the elected officials that we are so damn tied to the Democratic Party didn't do that. I heard not even Zoran Mamdani said anything about it. Let's just call everybody, let's just speak the truth. The Democratic Party said nothing, but ask them. Let something happen with Israel. They're all going to be saying something, but they said nothing. They gave this message to the world, really, that you can attack this black man, and then none of these
That could have played out very different.
Are going to do anything.
That could have played out very different. I was deeply worried about that, young brother.
Right.
I did a whole lot to mobilize support for him
It was
in
the
this area
people.
because they could have, they could have very anything can happen to you when you are in the clutches of the state. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get at any more energy than what you're talking about.
Right. And I was just saying, but it was the people. It was the people.
Absolutely.
And we gotta act like that. They don't get our support if they don't deserve it.
Yeah, but Zaid, we need to give the people some backdrop. What is the case, right? People hearing the name, but they don't know what.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going all off, and I don't mean to, but basically, he was on a freedom flotilla to bring aid to the Gaza Strip, and the IOF or IDF, they interceded the ship, and they captured them, and he was the only black person on board the ship that was I think it was about 14 people, people from all over the world, about seven from the United States, and they brutalized him. He is home now, thank goodness, but they brutalized him. And from what I understand, he lived in New Jersey.
He's from Elizabeth.
Right. But
he's from Elizabeth, and he's a sharp young lady. I've been trying to get hold of him for a minute, and I think I finally got a line on him. Further background, right? A lot of folks see this young Scandinavian young lady named Greta Thunberg, who's like this very famous for her protests around the environment. She was the first leading figure in the first iteration of what Lisa just described as a freedom flotilla. This is an effort to literally deliver by boat, by sea, humanitarian aid, in this case, food and food supports to Gaza, and to challenge the blockade of Israel, denying the international community the access to that support. And it's a deliberate way, it was done deliberately in that way to really challenge that blockade and to expose it for what it is to the eyes of the world, because that genocide that is happening is real. Chris was on the third iteration of that freedom flotilla, right? And like Greta was the star of the first one, he was the star of the second one. Chris was and he's a young man, right? Top flight labor organizer who did the push in Staten Island to unionize the first Amazon plant, in the country in Staten Island, and has really made a name for himself as being a top-rate labor organizer. And like I said, he's a young man. He's only in his 30s, right? So he is well known in organizing circles for what he's done. On this particular caravan, as Lisa described, he was the only black participant. And when the IDF boarded their vessel, right, he was singled out. He was beaten on the spot in front of all of them, beaten again when he was taken into captivity, and held the longest out of all of them, right, in captivity. And I'm going to tell you, like I said earlier, when you are in the clutches of the state, anything can happen to you at the hands of the state, right? So we were definitely worried about it. But the mass movement that is the International Palestinian Solidarity Movement mobilized fully here in this area and globally, right? And those things matter, especially when you're in the clutches of the state. So that's the background. I thought we actually shown that before, but we really haven't had a chance to do it yet. I've been able to get this young man, but I'm determined to bring him in our space because he deserves the support and understand that the love that he is getting. He's going to be on the show. This is not a drill at KBLA in Los Angeles tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock our time. He is going to be on with Melina Abdullah and Baba Greg Akili. And Greg Akili flew all the way from Los Angeles to JFK to receive that brother, right? That's the kind of solidarity and support and love that he got, right? And that's what South looks like at this time.
And it was, the people on the ground. But this is important because New Jersey's having an election this year. And I'm sure they're going to say the same thing to us Black people all the time. Oh, you better vote Democrat or whatever, and that is not advancing us. It just is not. So I know a message I'm giving. You're not going to mess with Black people. I'm going to stand on principle. You are not going to throw us away. You're not going to mess with us. But also, I apply that to everybody because I believe in the value of people's lives no matter what. And I'm not compromising it.
Well, so in that spirit, we got to ask you the ritual question as we go out. And I don't know if I think we've asked you before. I don't know.
You have. I usually answer the same way.
That's all right. That's all right. Bring your ball of fire with your music. We got that too. Who are you listening to? Who's your favorite hip hop artist?
Marvin Gaye, no matter what. That's going to be anytime you ask me my favorite anything, I'm always going to lead with Marvin Gaye, but also Dead Prez. And oh my gosh, there's some others. I cannot think of their names right now, but surely Dead Prez, Marvin Gaye, definitely. So,
all right, straight ahead.
Same answer, no matter what.
And we'll see you in the court. We'll see you in court. And no doubt about it.
And Uhuru means freedom. And again, please register for the upcoming conference, the Black is Back Coalition. We're going to be in New Orleans, the 20th anniversary of Katrina. We say never again.
Some of us went down to Katrina and put in some serious work.
Oh, I remember that.
One of the highlights of the legacy of the New Black Panther Party, the armed mission that we did there literally got people out.
And also, Vicky, what's her name? Vicky, she transitioned.
Yes, late, great Vicky White.
Yes, she
out of
literally organized.
That's right. Went down there, went into the 9th Ward with some young folks.
Yes.
Planted sunflower seeds and did cleanups, right? To help heal that soil and whatnot. It was a good, very dear friend and comrade, and we love and miss her dearly. Thank you for lifting her up.
Oh, yes.
All right, good to have you, Queen.
August 23rd and 24th, go to the Black is Back Coalition website. And thank you so much.
We got it up. Right on. Uhuru. Yeah, this was a hot session, right? I think Lisa's trying to get herself out of all politics and local prison.
Yeah. So Zaid, let's talk a little bit about, if we can, what you alluded to.
Josie didn't make it. Okay, I was hoping Josie would have made it. She was trying to get on. Okay. No, go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about, the genocide that's going on right now in Gaza, right? And because what the conversation is being had now, it says that the Israeli government has made a political decision to take over Gaza.
That was always their intent.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was always their intent.
Yeah. Especially when Donald Trump said that, they should turn it into, this beach island, right? So I read somewhere today, though, where they said that the goal is for them to be told that there's food outside of Gaza. And so if the folks leave to go get the food, they will not be allowed back in.
That's what you do to dogs.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Huh?
So that's going to be
train a dog. You're going to, you start with it. Oh, please. It's disgusting.
Right. Yeah. And so that's what they said, that now that they're taking it over, the only other way is that these people are going to starve to death, right? Because now that Netanyahu and the Israeli government have made the decision to take over the territory and remove those people, right, by any means necessary at this point. The question is that where is the world court, Zaid? Where is
World
the
Court is on the right side of the question, right? The World Court is dubbed Netanyahu a war criminal. There are places he can't go in the world without looking over his shoulder to be possibly arrested as a war criminal, right? So, I mean, the international opinion is definitely against what's happening with the genocide, but the ultimate power levels of the northern, dominated, empires of the North, the United States and Europe, are still solidly behind what Israel is doing. Israel is and Deruba bin Wahad has always been saying this. Israel is a proxy force for the United States and capitalist forces in the Middle East. What the U.S. won't do militarily, they'll have Israel do. Quietus is kept underneath some of that land is believed to be a serious reserve of some fresh oil. And these folks are addicted to oil like they used to have us addicted to heroin and crack.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that, you can't get in mainstream media a meaningful conversation at all around the destruction, the famine, the violence, the genocide, none of that. Only thing you get in the mainstream media is that Hamas is the problem and nothing is going to be all right. We're not going to stop or let up on any of this military aggression unless Hamas is gone. Right? That's how they're framing that narrative. And even with the, organizations like the Jewish Voices for Peace and Soma, who's been doing that organizing, that's been supporting Lisa in her case, and they've been doing those rallies that they were doing in South Orange and Maplewood. Even with a recent protest, they took over Grand Central Station, shut it down, did a mass arrest, direct action stuff that was the highlight of what we used to do in the height of the Black Liberation Movement. They're doing that, condemning their own government, but yet the media order of this country is still so locked into everything between Zionism and oil that you can't even have that conversation. Right? So spaces like ours, modest though they be, are important outlets for people to get some real information and some real analysis from real people on the ground doing what we do, to get some clarity and real direction. And look who's back. Ride, Rhino, ride! DJ Rhino is back.
What's going on, fellas? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We hear you good. And it's good to see you, brother.
Yeah, man. Good seeing y'all, man. Good seeing y'all for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So how's things been with y'all, man? Everything's been all right?
It's crazy as hell, quite frankly.
Yeah, I know. We're living in a wild world right now.
Yes, we are, brother. We
The
definitely are.
struggle is intensifying, Rhino. It's every day you wake up, you almost petrified to turn on the news because there's another level of distraction. Because that's all it is.
It's always something else.
It's all distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
unfortunately, my wife and I, have had to step back from the news for a while because we would have MSNBC or whatever on TV all the time. We were always staying in tune with like the young political shows and podcasts like Native Land podcast with Angela Rye. We always stayed in tune with what was going on. But man, after this dude got back in office, man, it was like we had to just kind of break away from everything for a little while and just be, what I'm saying, and figure what we're gonna do in our time and space, what I'm saying, in all of this, what I mean. So yeah, it's been hard to watch the news recently, man. Oh man, because like you said, man, every day it's something else. It's something else crazy. And it's crazy. Man.
You think about what Zaid and the conversation we were just having. We're literally seeing in real time a mass genocide going on, right? Yeah. And we see that a government has made a decision to just take over someone's land and completely, Either they move out or either they die. That's it, right? There's no other way. Um, so that they've made a decision to take these folks out. So what they've said is that the food that you want is on the outside. We're not going to bring it in. It's on the outside. So if you want it, you got to go outside of Gaza. Otherwise, you're going to stay here and you're going to starve to death, right?
Well,
And
see,
then we're waiting on that.
this is how I'm seeing it, is that basically what they're doing is what they've always been doing. It's just now, in the time that we're living in, they have to dress it up in such a way to where they can get away with it. You know what I'm saying? They have to dress it up in such a way, like Zaire was talking about. You know how they dress it up, how they dress things up in the media. You know what I'm saying? For people to swallow these things a little bit easier. You know what I'm saying? When really what it is what they've always been doing, taking land and genocide, and you know, this has been going on for centuries. You know what I'm saying? And they're doing the same thing. It's just they're trying to find a new way to do it today. They're trying to get it. They're trying to find a way to get that off today. You know what I mean? And you know, so that's why we have all of these distractions and all this stuff that's going on with the technology. And it's crazy, man, what we're in right now, man. It's deliberate to keep people distracted. It's deliberate to keep people confused. You know, not knowing what's going on. What's really going on, you know what I mean? It's just bananas, man. And yeah, man, I mean, we just gotta we have to figure out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna survive in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's always been the thing, you know. It's like what Stokely Carmichael always said, you know, black people will survive America. We have to find a way to survive America. You know what I'm saying? And no matter what's going on. And that's how it's always been for us in this country. Right. No matter what's going on, we got to find a way to survive.
That's right. But you know, Rhino, it's never been this blatant, right? Where you literally have the support of the president of the United States. You literally have the president. You literally have the support of the House and the Senate, right? And so people are seeing this going on, and no one is saying nothing, right? Yeah. I
wouldn't say this is the first time we're seeing, because this was going on before. It's just the first time for our generations. You know what I'm saying? Our generation like seeing something like this, but they've been blatant about this before. You know what I'm saying? This isn't their first time being blatantly racist. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying blatantly racist. I'm saying blatantly.
They've been very blatant about that.
Right.
But like the difference this time is the scale of violence.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, this is how they get. Like I said, they're trying to get this off. They have to get this over. For them, they got to look. They're looking at it like, look, we have to do what we have to do to get this over. And so, if we have to and this is probably one of the things. If we have to blatantly do some things, we're going to blatantly do some things and lay it out there. And part of the whole scheme is to make sure that you can put fear in the people so they don't resist and all of this other stuff. You know, it's the same game we've always seen, man. It's the same game we've always seen. It's always been there. They're just trying to find their new ways and doing it for this new time that we're in with this new generation. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same old game that they've been doing for centuries.
Yeah. Well, it is happening right in front of our eyes, and I think
right in front of us.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, because someone even asked the question, you know, I forget that the dude who is the hip hop producer, man. There was someone who was, because you know he's Palestinian, that chubby dude, you know, I forget his name, man. But someone was asking DJ Khaled. Yeah. And someone was saying, "Where's Khaled, man? How come he's not?
How come he's not saying nothing?
Yeah, how come he's not leading any rallies? How come he's not leading any marches? How come he's not doing that? Right? Mm-hmm. Why? I mean, he got a huge voice. He got a huge following. This man is incredibly rich, you know. So you say, and he got a lot of friends in the entertainment business, right? You're saying that, you know, he can't lead some sort of march, some sort of rally, or is he just that afraid that, you know, they may decide to deport him? What is it?
Or take his money or something? You know, people are scared, man.
Yeah,
folks are scared out here.
Yeah,
But that's what they, and again, that's what they want. They want you to be scared, so you don't do nothing.
that's
Keep you
exactly
silent. That's how they keep you silent.
right. That's a part of what's happening. I'm not saying that we get so focused on that and lose the focus on black folks. No, I'm simply saying that, if they get away with that, we're doing that to them. Remember, black folk is always at the top of the list.
Yeah, man.
Always.
And we are, yeah. I mean, it's all relative, man.
Right.
The great Eldridge Cleaver used to say that, man. Like everybody's struggle is our struggle. Everybody's struggle is our struggle. It's all.
And that's the same way with our freedom represents everybody else's freedom, right? So everything we fought for, every other group of people benefited from that, right? Every march that we've done, every boycott that we've done, every other group of people that come to this country have benefited from that. And and so Rhino, what I want to talk about. I know you've seen this where BET has made the decision to cancel the Hip Hop Awards and the Soul Train Awards, and what they say is that the reason they've decided to cancel it, they said that the reason they decided to cancel it was for economic reasons. They were not getting the advertising support dollars in order to be able to successfully produce it, and they claim that it is suspended indefinitely. What do you think is really behind that?
I mean, and they were also trying to say that they're trying to find new media avenues for those platforms, for the Soul Train Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards. My thing is, what's the difference with the rest of the shows that they're not canceling? How come they're not trying to find those new media avenues for those shows as well? It just seems a little weird that it was targeted to BET Hip Hop and the Soul Train Awards, but I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say right now what it's all about. So but at the same time, they say that they're not getting the dollars, the advertising dollars, but have you seen some of these shows recently? That's been my issue with some of these shows. Some of these shows recently, the BET shows, and even some of the Essence award shows. Like, I don't understand what's going on. I understand they're trying to include. They're trying to include the young. You got to include the young heads. The young heads are the ones that's ruining it right now. But this, I don't know. There's still got to be a way. I don't know, man. I just feel like.
Very low vibration. I'm trying to be polite.
Because I'm gonna tell you, we had the Essence Awards back in the days, and you had certain hip hop artists that would show up, and it would be the ones that fit the bill. You know what I'm saying? People like a Big Daddy Kane or a Heavy D would show up, or whoever was hot, but kept the class and all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's lost its class. It's lost. I don't know, man. It's to me, those award shows have lost something. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lost some of those advertising dollars, because some of those award shows kind of suck. The recent ones, and that's my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's new news to me. I'm not sure. They said that. They said they're trying to find new media avenues for those two.
I read that too, but you know what happened with the Essence Awards, right?
What was it? What happened?
Well, the Essence Awards had all white producers. That was the problem, right?
Well, that's what I heard about the BET staff. Period, though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the BET staff. I don't know if it's all white, but what I heard is that the reason that they said that the Essence Award was a complete failure. They said that every producer for every segment of the Essence Awards was all white. And remember, the owners.
I think I saw that somewhere online, and they even showed a picture of them, and it was it was all Caucasian.
Right. So how do you produce something that is
black entertainment, black entertainment television?
Right, but it's a cultural award, right?
Right.
It's about culture.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you replace all of your black producers and you bring in all your white producers? How do you do that? So all of the producers and even the executive producer is white.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm confused by that. And then the owner is black. What it sounds like to me is that the same thing we were talking about, Zaid, earlier, right? When we talked about what was going on with Westmore. Why would somebody like a Governor Westmore, right, veto a reparations bill? Well, what they're saying is that one of the factors is that this man has presidential political aspirations. And he knows that if he supports that they may not help him get the support from the Democratic Party. One, and two, it may not help him get the money from the Jewish community that he needs in order to run. Now, I don't know if that's factual. I don't have any evidence to prove that, but that sort of seems to be what's going on now, where we have everybody making these long-term decisions based around on what's good for them individually, right? Not what's good for the group, but what's good for them individually. And so that's what I heard most folks were saying after they came from the Soul Train Music Awards. But a lot of folks did boycott it, like Tamika Mallory and all of them, because one of the huge sponsors was Target.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's still an ongoing boycott of Target, a lot of black folks did not support it. So I mean, but it just seems to be that, remember, all of this is a direct effect with the attack that was going around diversity inclusion around that whole DEI concept. So all of this seems to be a direct effect of all of that's going on, where all of these different things that are targeted at black folk. You now have these white companies that are under the control of Donald Trump saying we're not going to fund anything that's black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something we need to take into consideration, Rhino, whether we decide to support these companies and these products.
And that's why I said we need to find out and figure out, rather, what we're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Because they're doing it already.
Mm-hmm.
Our opposition, they're doing it already. They're doing what they got to do. So we need to figure out what we need to do to get through this. You know what I'm saying?
Evolve some more power to be in more control, be more able to determine our own destiny. That's what we need to
do. Yeah. But real quick, let me get into some hip hop, y'all. Of course, the you see the shirt, Treacherous 3.
Treacherous 3, yes, sir.
Today is the born day of Mohandas Dewees. That is Kool Moe Dee, great Kool Moe Dee from Treacherous 3. Today's his born day. I'm gonna say happy born to who I call the very first educated rapper, man. To me, Kool Moe Dee was the dude that was the one putting the big words in his lyrics and just had all kinds of metaphors and stuff. And this is early in lyrics. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about the pioneer days. Kool Moe Dee was that guy. Rock. There's a certain style that Rakim had when he first came out, where he would say a line, and then whatever the last word in his rhyme was in the line, he would continue what he was saying at the beginning of the next line. And Moe Dee was known for doing that years ago in the early days. So just want to give mad love to Kool Moe Dee, man.
I love that.
Man, yeah, Kool Moe Dee. And think about Kool Moe Dee also, and still to this day, man, he's very Afrocentric, man. He's very much about his people, and he's always been a conscious MC, man. So I just want to big up Kool Moe Dee. My favorite line in Self-Destruction is you never see me run from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't. Never, never.
I know what you're saying.
I'm trying to say,
yeah,
shouldn't have to run from a black man. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Never had to run from the Ku Klux Klan. I shouldn't have to run from a black man. That was the line. That was my favorite line.
We need a project like that for this moment.
Yeah, man, we need another one of those, man. But anyway, I want to say happy
He
birthday.
shares a birthday with Dr. Matulu Shakur, the stepfather of Tupac Shakur.
Yeah, I saw that today, man. Matulu Shakur, man. Yes. Happy born day to the king. Also want to say today is also the anniversary of the passing of the brother Sean Price, who was known as Ruck from Rock and Ruck, Helter Skelter, Boot Camp Click. Sean Price, we lost him on this day back in 2015. So just want to say rest
That's
in
10
peace.
years. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Been 10 years, man, since we lost Sean Price, man. Wow, that was a wild boy, man. He had some rugged lyrics, but he was also very comical, man. If you catch anything by Sean P on YouTube or something, man, he'll have you cracking up, man, because he was crazy. Last night I got to go to NJ Pack to see the sister, the queen, MC Light. She came and represented at Sounds of the City at NJ Pack outside last night.
I was supposed to go to that. There's a child that's like a granddaughter to me who was like one of the the young poets opening up for her.
Mm-hmm.
I got tied up on another presentation and couldn't
Yeah,
go.
I got to see some of those young.
Her name was London
kids,
Rogers.
we had a lot of nice young poets out there, man.
Yeah. We had London on the show here when they were performed at AJ Pack a little while ago before that. But yeah, I was supposed to go there. I'm sure it was all of that.
Yeah. Big ups to them, man, because they had a whole woman's theme going on last night. So that's that was beautiful to see, man. To see the young heads, the young sisters representing for the queens. And MC Light came out there and did her thing, man. She sounded so good. She looked so good. You know what I'm saying? She came out. She came out rocking Cha 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 and a couple more of her classics. She had a band also with her DJ. She had a band playing. So so it was like real drum heavy. So she sounded good over the hard drums. She's got that voice. She's got that iconic voice. We talking about these award shows. We always hear MC Light doing the voiceovers for these award shows. You know what I'm saying? So she's got an iconic voice, man. So to hear her still rocking and rapping, man, over these hard drum beats, man, she sounded so good, man. The flow is still there, and she's still clear. You know what I mean? She
took care of herself.
Yeah, she definitely
took care of herself.
And if anybody's followed MC Light, she's had some some ins and outs in life, man, some ups and downs, man, that she had to deal with, man, and come through. But she came through like a champ, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday she did, like I said, she came out with Cha 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 and a couple of other classics. But if anybody remembers, during the pandemic, MC Light she was DJing for a while. She was actually doing DJ sets online during the pandemic and during the quarantine. And what she did last night, she broke in the middle of her performance and she did a DJ.
Got on the 1-2s,
Yeah, she did a little DJ set. But the DJ set was love songs. Now, she just lost her mom about a month ago. She just lost her mom. And so she was kind of like telling the story about, the kind of music that her mom and the family used to play in the house when she was young and growing up and stuff. So what she did a DJ set of love songs that she grew up listening to, all the way up into the days of when she was a teenager throwing on, love songs and stuff. So
wow.
What was so dope about it, man, like, everything that she played, man, everybody was singing along, and you just got this nostalgic feeling, man, of Black love. You just see all the couples out there, and everybody was just singing along to these songs, man, and it just felt so good, man. It just took you back to a time of Black love, man. You know what I'm saying? She just doing so many different classics, man. She started from like the 70s and came up to like the mid 80s, you know what I'm saying, when we were teenagers getting into love and having little crushes on girls, and you know what I'm saying. So it was just cool, man. It was a nice nostalgic feeling, man, of Black love, man. And then after that, she broke into a medley of some of the new stuff she got on her new album. She's got a new album out called One of One, which got a lot of dope songs, of dope production, and like I said, she hasn't lost nothing when it comes down to her flow and her lyricism and all of that. Like, MC Light is still MC Light that we know and love, you know what I'm saying? So definitely check that album out. And then she closed out with classics, man. My favorite, my main classic is Paper Thin. So I was waiting for that, you know what I'm saying? and she rocked out with Roughneck and a bunch of other classics that we know and love so much, man, by MC Light, man. But she did her thing. Now, I know something went out online where at the beginning she had a little stumble situation when she was coming up the stairs on stage and she had a little stumbling. But even that was like she knew what to do, because even when she tripped up, she kind of fell and rolled. Like, you know how like athletes do, like they know how to fall.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So she kind of had this little roll with it, and she knew how to get back up. So, you know,
First thing you learn in martial arts is how to fall.
yeah, exactly. So she didn't hurt nothing. She didn't break nothing. She was good, and she took it like a champ. She brushed it off. She made a little joke about it and kept going, like the icon she is. You know what I'm saying? So MC Light, man, she did her thing last night at NJ Pack, man, and it was a great time. We had a great time. What else? Oh, we lost the icon, man. We lost.
Hey, Rhino. Before you go on, did they have a ticket process in order to get into that area for MC Light last night?
No, that's outside. That's that was free. That's the sounds.
Yeah. That was like,
So
wow.
it was just open like usual.
Yeah.
Because people were talking about there was a line. I was like, nah, dude. I mean, I don't
No, it wasn't no line. They had their gates. They had the gates set up a certain way, so you had to find the end of the gate so that you can get in there. You know what I'm saying? But it's free. It was free though for everybody.
Yeah,
I heard it was
no lines at all. But we lost an icon, y'all, who I call a hidden icon, because he never really, in my opinion, he never truly got his just due. Never truly got his props and his flowers, man, for as long as he's been in the game, for all that he's done. We lost the brother Hitman Howie T. Howie T was a brother who came out. I remember the first time I heard Howie T was on a record called Get Tough by a group called CD3 back in 1983 on Prelude Records. And they used to play this every morning. I used to hear this song. And it was a rap record, and it was called Get Tough. It was kind of like electro funk, hip hop kind of vibe, but it had scratches and stuff. And Hitman Howie T was part of this group. I didn't learn about that even until later down the line, a couple of years later. But that was the first time I heard of Hitman Howie T was on CD3, Get Tough, and then of course we heard of UTFO, Roxanne, with Kango Kid, educated rapper Dr. Ice, and Mixed Master Ice. But Howie T was a big part of Full Force, who produced UTFO. So that some of the early production of UTFO was done by, it's credited to Full Force, but a lot of that work was Howie T. Howie T did a lot of keyboard work, he did a lot of drum programming, and he also DJ, so he did a lot of cuts and scratches on those songs. Mixed Master Ice was the main DJ for the group UTFO, but Howie T was part of the production of the that first single, especially Roxanne, which was a huge hit. But then, of course, again, he was part of Full Force. So even with Full Force Records, when Full Force put their first single out, Alice, they had a DJ called E-Croft. He looked like a spaceman. He had this big helmet on, and his name was E-Croft, which was Force spelled backwards. But that was Hitman Howie T in disguise, doing all of the cuts and scratches for Full Force for their records. He was also the DJ and producer for the real Roxanne after the Roxanne thing blew up, and Roxanne Shantae came out, and then UTFO and all of them tried to come up with their own Roxanne, and so they had the real Roxanne, and he was the producer and the DJ for her as well. So he did all of her production and all of her cuts and scratches as well. Fast forward a little bit, Howie T becomes the in-house producer for Select Records, which was an independent hip-hop label at that time. Select Records puts out Special Ed. Well, before Special Ed, he puts out Chub Rock. Chub Rock was actually his...
Chub Rock.
Yeah, Chub Rock and Howie T were actually cousins. Their mothers were sisters. So that's his first cousin. So he put Chub Rock out. He produced all his first 2-3 albums did all the cuts, scratches, all of the beats and all that stuff. Also put out Special Ed. Worked on his first 2 albums, The Youngest in Charge and Legal. He put that out for Special Ed. He did work for a lot of other folks, man. He did work for Heavy D. He did work for Father MC. He did work for, believe it or not, he did work for Madonna. He did work for Little Sean. He did work for Maxi Priest. He did work for, that song, I Wanna Sex You Up by Color Me Bad. He produced that. So Howie T did a lot of work, man. He's been in the game for years and years and years, man. And nobody talks about Howie T. It's kind of like almost like Herbie Lovebug. You know what I'm saying? You don't hear a lot about Herbie Lovebug with all of the stuff that he's done. But Howie T was one of those guys, man, who's been around, like I said, since, at least to my knowledge, since 1983 with CD3. And CD3 also put out another single one time. They had a jam called Summer Jam, which was a dope summer hip hop cut. So Howie T's he's had his hands in a lot of stuff, man, but people don't know about it. People don't talk about
that's a 40-year stretch.
Yeah, man, he's been around for a long time, man. Howie T's been around for a long time, did a lot of work for a lot of folks, man. And he never truly got his flowers. I was really hoping that he was going to get that Drink Champs interview. You know what I'm saying? I was really hoping that was going to happen, because when you see legends like that on Drink Champs, man, you get a lot of good information from them. You just get to see their personality, man. You know what I mean? And I wish we had that opportunity with Hitman Howie T, man, but we missed out on that, man. But rest in peace to the legendary Hitman Howie T. What else I got? Oh, another thing that went on out here, right here in Newark, New Jersey. There was a thing called the Battle in the Bricks that took place down on Halsey Street, 49 Halsey Street. It was like a producer battle. So it was like a beat battle between producers. It was put together by my man Stanley Ipkiss, which is one of the great producers out here, man. Got some banging beats, man. He's one of the champions who's gone around the country and around the world, man. Stanley Ipkiss, he put together a lot of good stuff for a lot of local rappers out here. Local, not just rappers, but singers and all of that. He's done stuff for Gail Campbell out here. But
Gail's good voice. She got a strong voice.
Yeah, Gail is beautiful, man. And so now he put together this thing called the Battle in the Bricks. So it was held down on 49 Halsey Street. And it was pretty dope, man. There was some cats. Originally I thought I was going to have Unicorn here. Unicorn was one of the judges there. It was Unicorn, my man Mark, who actually used to live in my old building, and Do It All, councilman. Do It All was there. He was one of the judges for the battle. And so real quick, I just want to shout out Nomix, Notic, Blues 360, Hitman, C Hustle, M Audio, my man Brown Bum, my man Choke, Samad Savage. These were some of the DJ. I mean, these are the producers that came out and battled in the battle. And there was Nomix versus Notic, and Nomix won. Blues 360 versus Hitman. Blues 360 won that. C Hustler won over M Audio, and Samad Savage, who's one of the rappers out here, who's one of the young vocalists out here, lyricists. Samad Savage, he also does beats, but he won over my man Brown Bum, who's like one of the OGs. He's like from my generation. So then what they had to do, they had to, it was like, process of elimination. So the winners were Nomix.
They just had to square off.
Yeah. So it was Nomix, Blues 360, C Hustle, and Samad Savage. And so then it became Nomix versus C Hustle, which Nomix won. Blues 360 won over Samad Savage. And then it had to come down to Blues 360 versus Nomix, and Nomix won. So, but it was really dope, man, just to hear raw beats, man, a lot of hard drums, a lot of dope melodies, and just hearing the creativity, you know what I'm saying? How people use samples and sounds and stuff. It was a nice experience. So big ups to all of the producers, big ups to Nomix, who was the champion, and big ups to Blues 360 because he was definitely one of my favorites. You know, Nas Savage, one of my favorite artists. Period. So yeah, it was good. It was good, man. Also, Brown Bum was also the DJ for the event too. But yeah, that was a good one, man. We had a lot of fun. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. What do I have next? Oh, the Joe and Jada Show. I don't know if anybody watches the Joe and Jada Show. The Joe and Jada Show is a podcast with Fat Joe and Jadakiss, and they've been around for a couple of months now doing their thing. You know, and it's picking up. It's starting to make some noise. You know what I'm saying? Those are the two kings of New York. You know what I'm saying? You know, they was talked about. Jay-Z, Biggie, Nas. And then, who was going to be the next? It's going to be Fat Joe or Jadakiss or whatever. So, I always looked at those two cats as like the next two kings of New York. But it was kind of cool to see them have a podcast together. You know what I'm saying? And, Fat Joe is the talkative one that's got all of these stories and always got something to talk about, something to say. Jadakiss is the one who tries to keep the balance, who tries to keep the sanity, make sure things are making sense. You know what I'm saying? They just recently had Eve on there as a guest, which was
where has she been?
Yeah, because she's been out in the clouds, man. That's how high up she's gotten in the world. You know what I'm saying? But they had Eve on the show, man, and if you could remember, Eve and Jadakiss used to be part of Rough Riders, the Rough Rider came together. So it was good to see them together sitting on the couch.
Fat Joe was on one of the last episodes of The Godfather Harlem a little while ago too.
Yeah. Now, see, the only thing about Fat Joe, and I gotta say this because I know I'm not the only one that sees it. Everybody's talking about it. Fat Joe, man, he's got to pull back a little bit, man. Fat Joe does a lot of talking, man, and it's cool. It's cool to have the stories because we all love the stories. That's one thing. I ain't gonna front. We all love to hear the stories, the background stories, things that was going on and whatever. So we love the stories. The thing with Fat Joe is he's got to recognize that when you have a show, you got a podcast. Because remember when the pandemic was going on, Fat Joe had his own show. He had his own podcast online. It was just him, which was good for Joe because it was just him. He could do all the talking and you know what I mean. It was just him. But when you got a co-host, and then when you have guests, you gotta think about other people's time and space for speaking and talking and breaking it down. And it was difficult to watch this Eve interview because he really didn't let her speak, and he started going into himself and talking about himself and these stories about himself, and he just didn't ask enough of the right questions to Eve, and it was hard, man. You could see that it was even hard for Jadakiss to keep control of the show. You know what I'm saying? And trying to direct the energy and the focus to Eve. You know what I mean? But if you get a chance, definitely check out
Philly Girl. Yeah,
man. It's
so what is Eve working with? What's she doing now?
Huh?
What is Eve working with now? What's she doing now?
Actually, she's been on tour. I just saw footage of her doing a show somewhere where she was paying respects to DMX. She did like a little tribute.
Yeah, but Eve don't even live in. She don't live in America anymore, brother.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I know. She's she's cross seas somewhere now.
Yeah, she married a white man. Don't live in.
I remember she got married. That's the last I heard from her.
Had a baby, and and that's it, man. And whatever happened between her and that crazy dude who turned her out. I forget
J?
that dude. Stevie J turned her out.
Yeah.
That's why she left America. She's like, yo, I'm done with these hip hop niggas, brother. I'm out of here.
Well, he didn't turn her out for her, and that's not why he left. He didn't. I wouldn't even say he turned her out. He played her out by putting out that sex tape. He was with her early. But he was with her early. But he was with her early in the game during the early days of her career. She left like years after that, like on her own. She left because she had the money, she had the dude. She left. America was bugging. She left. I don't think she didn't leave because of Stevie J.
I mean, what I heard, brother, from the people that was in the industry that I would talk to, they said that she just couldn't function. She was, she was depressed. She was having nervous breakdown, and and she just couldn't trust any other brother in the business. And so, she wound up, finding, this rich white dude and who liked hip hop music, and
Took
and
care of her properly. No.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's not a Stevie J thing because she's been with other people since Stevie J before she got with the white dude. So
right, but it was
whatever
but
it is she's been through,
their
whatever it is
argument
she's
was
been through,
that she was never.
made a choice to
Their
do what she
argument was that she was never the same after Stevie J. And the analysis that they used, Rhino, was they said the same thing happened to Mary J. Blige and the brother from Jodeci, that he had turned her out and she was never the same no matter what other brother she went to, right?
All right. So my thing is, what do we call and turned out? Because what we know about Jodeci, what we know about KC and Mary J, it was an abusive relationship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing with Stevie J and Eve, I'm not sure if it was abusive, but I know for sure putting out that sex tape wasn't good for her. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that did something to her head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, of course, she's not going to trust him, and she's going to look at anybody funny,
Right.
at that point. But like I said, she's been with other people since Stevie J, so I don't think it was just a Stevie J situation that made her leave America. She left America on her own.
Yeah.
Now, underneath that, though, there's a question that, and this is, the a call for the continued maturation and growing up of hip hop, is the question of misogyny and sexism is still something that folks ain't comfortable talking about.
Yeah,
and it's there. Right?
Yeah.
We need to be honest and say acknowledge that it's there. I just wanted to put a pin in that.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's a lot. You're coming back roaring, DJ. You're coming back roaring with a whole lot.
Yeah,
and you ain't even touched what's in front of what's left of the summer yet.
Nah. So now let me get into. Let's keep it going. Raekwon just dropped the album called "The Emperor's New Clothes." Now I already told y'all last time I was on about that Wu-Tang show. That Wu-Tang show at the Prudential was amazing, man. These dudes were flawless.
A lot of people talking
flawless.
about
They brought out Mary J. They brought out Lauryn Hill. It was crazy. But Raekwon got this new album called "The Emperor's New Clothes." You got to check this album out. Raekwon and his Wu-Tang lingo, all of that greatness that we love with Raekwon. You know what I'm saying? I would say the standout songs for me off of this album was Bear Hill, One Life, 600 School, The Heavies, and Mac and Lobster. Check those songs out. Check out the album. The whole album is dope. You know what I'm saying? It starts off in all of the Wu-Tang glory. You know what I'm saying? With the movie, the skits from the karate movies and all of that. You know how they do. It's a great album, man. It's a full listen. You just listen to it straight through. Another album you can listen to straight through, and I didn't think, for me personally, I didn't think I was going to be able to listen to this album straight through. But surprisingly, the Clips put out an album that's amazing, man. Like production-wise, the flows, the sounds, and I just like the delivery of how they're coming on this album, man. Pusha T with his brother Malice back in the game now. They sound good together. Malice sounds good. And it's interesting just to hear how Malice fits in because, he took a break for a while and was on his religious thing for a while. You know what I mean? So for him to come back now, it's almost like, like when Mace coming back after his religious stint or whatever, you know what I mean? To hear, or even Ice Cube, man, just to hear how brothers can mix the street flavor or return to the street flavor after, having a spiritual or religious situation in their lives at that moment in their lives, that time, that awakening, you know what I'm saying? So to hear Malice, man, back in the game with his brother, it's interesting, man. But it sounds good, man. He sounds good. His flows, his metaphors, and I mean, he hasn't lost a step, you know what I mean? And Pusha, of course, he's always on top of his game, man. So to hear these two dudes together after all of this time, and to put out an album like this, man, where you can really listen to this album straight through, it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. I gotta say myself, man. I would say the standout cuts, man. The name of the album is "Let God Sort 'Em Out." The title cut features Nas. You got to check this out. And it made sense for them to have Nas on that title cut. Let God sort them out. Another dope cut on there, Chains and Whips, So Be It, MTB, TTF, which is Mike Tyson blow to the face. That's what that stands for. And POV. Those are some standout cuts that you might want to check out on there. I wish Chris Randall was here right now because I think he was Chris Randall on the show earlier today.
Yeah.
So I wish he was here because I know he's a Clips fan, man. He loves Pusha T, and I know he wanted to talk about this Clips album. But yeah, definitely check out that album by Clips. It's called Let God Sort Them Out, and it's a really good one, man. Like I said, it's a straight through banger. So check that out. What else happened? The Lincoln Park Day. I did not make it to Lincoln Park Day, downtown Newark. I don't know what was going on with their promotions for the thing or whatever. I heard Black Thought was the headliner, but I definitely did not get down there to see any of that. I didn't know what was going on, and I wasn't trying to go down there not knowing the situation and having to go deal with all of the parking and all of that, because you know how parking gets down there in Lincoln Park.
Yeah, that was my old neighborhood. I haven't been down there in moons.
Yeah, and you know that was the thing I always did. Like every summer, I would go down for Hip Hop Day, you know, for Lincoln Park, man. And what's so funny, man, is that it rains every Lincoln Park Hip Hop Day. It always rains. If it's just a little bit, or if it's like a thunder, lightning storm, it always rains on Lincoln Park Day, on Hip Hop Day in Lincoln Park. But yeah, I just feel like big ups to everybody at the that's on the staff at Lincoln Park. But I just wish they would get it together as far as the promotions for Hip Hop Day, because House Day gets all kinds of love. House Day is a big deal, man, out here in the bricks, man. House Day is huge, and like it gets so much love, man. But I just wish hip hop
coming from everywhere for some of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I heard.
What happened at the hip hop?
Elmwood Park was crazy as well.
But Rhino, what happened at Hip Hop Day? What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
Because the promotions. I don't know who was there, who performed anything. I didn't go. Okay. But I heard that Black Thought was the headliner there. And
I saw that too.
I saw some people's clips and stuff that and photos and stuff from that day, but I definitely didn't make it though. I did do Brick City Jam the last day. Brick City Jam, they do like a whole weekend every summer. They'll do something at Riverfront Park in Newark. They'll do something at this club. I can't think of the name right now, but they always hold a function there. And then they usually finish the last day, like the fourth day, they usually finish on Abington Avenue in North Newark. And that's the place where they have all of the walls of the graffiti and stuff like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So on the 20th, this past July 20th, I was DJing at Abington Ave. Big ups to all of the artists, the bands, the live bands, the musicians, man. There's a lot of nice young musicians out here, man, that really know how to play, man. I've seen some young cats, man, playing piano and bass and drums, man. It was just, we got to get these artists recognized, man. It's not enough recognition for the art anymore, not like it used to be, man. We're so caught up in so much of what's going on politically and otherwise in our lives, man, that we need those other things in our lives to be recognized as well, to balance some of what's going on, man, because it's an energy war right now. It's a war of vibrations. You know what I'm saying? It's a war of energies, man, positive and negative, man. We got to learn how to balance these things out. And our youth, man, our young kids out here, man, when they're doing positive things and have a lot of skills, man, we got to shine that, man. We got to shine for sure. So yeah, big ups to all of the young cats that were playing down on Abington Avenue, July 20th for the Brick City Jam. Also big ups to my OGV family, Operation Good Vibes, DJ R Train, DJ Rich, Max Jerome, DJ Coach K, who came out along with me to Amsterdam Projects. That's on 64th Street between Amsterdam.
Yeah, old San Juan neighborhood. That's right.
Yeah, that's right, San Juan Hill. That's right behind Lincoln Center.
Right.
Yeah, man. And it was a great day, man. And
Whole hidden black community behind all that money. That's right.
that's right. And luckily, we were able to actually record video and audio record the whole set, everything that we did that day. So we have that stuff documented. So that was
good.
So big ups to the OGV family, Operation Good Vibes. What else, real quick? We got a couple more things. Got a lot with y'all, man, today. Big ups to my hold up. Yeah, big ups to my crew, Rated R. There's a group out here called Rated R. That's my man Hakeem Stevens, aka Chino, Bree DeBecca, Bree Williamson, Jamil Way, Jam C. They are Rated R. They're from out here in Newark. They're connected with Do It All, the West Ward Councilman, because Do It All, Lords of the Underground, they were the ones who basically pulled Rated R along with them and took them on tour with them, along with Supreme C, who's also from out here, also part of Zoo Crew and the Naughty Camp. But yeah, I just want to shout out Rated R because Rated R never got their just due out here, man. But they're Brick City, legendary Brick City group out here, 3-man group. But they also did a lot of songwriting and producing for other local artists out here that I've also worked with them with. And yeah, man, I just wanted to give them some love and shine some love on Rated R real quick. Rest in peace. Now I want to just shine some light on some things that aren't hip hop real quick, but they are hip hop related. I want to say rest in peace to the great Eddie Palmieri. Jazz.
I shouted him out earlier.
Yeah,
85 years young.
Yeah, man.
Get out of the barrio.
Yeah, and for me, originally coming from New York City, man, he was the Latin sound of New York City.
That's right. He was.
You know what I'm saying?
Eddie Palmieri and Willie Colon.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So definitely rest in peace to Eddie Palmieri. Somebody who was not necessarily, well, he was. I gotta say he was hip hop, man, because he was hip hop. He was in hip hop videos. He was in the Houdini video for Funky Beat. He was in Special Ed's video for The Magnificent and so many other videos. And he was part of the hip hop generation. He was our cousin, our brother. I want to say rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner because we grew up.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance even to touch him yet. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Folks grew up with him.
A great artist, a great actor, a great poet.
A good man.
Just young brother. Mind, man. Just a great brother, a great mind, great soul, man. You know what I'm saying? And we watched him grow and mature, man, throughout the years. You know what I'm saying? And he was our generation, man. So he was definitely hip hop. So I gotta shout him
your
out.
Generation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And you know, again, he ain't hip hop, but we sampled the hell out of him. I gotta say, rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. All right, what's the last? Oh, and this is it. And I know if he was here, big ups to my man Hakeem Green. I know he'd be shouting this out right now. Make sure you look out for 24 Hours of Peace, September 5th and 6th. It's coming. 5th and 6th. Make sure you're there. It's actually like the day before my birthday's on the 7th. So September 5th and 6th. Make sure y'all come out.
Yeah.
For that 24 Hours of Peace. Now, did he mention whether it's going to be at the same location or he's got a new location for it?
I forget the location, but he did mention it.
Okay, it's a new location.
No, it's not the same location.
It's back in the West.
Not the same one.
Yeah, back in the Westwood. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll get that information, but definitely look out for that. And then other than that, man, that's it. I want to just say Crate Sessions with CMZ is back. Where I'm going through these albums that you see behind me. I'm back at it again. I got about four or five more crates to go through. So Crate Sessions is back. Make sure you check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ. Make sure you hit the notification bell because all my Crate Sessions are pop-ups, so you never know when I pop up. But when I do, if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified. And that's it for me, y'all. I know that was a lot, man, but I had to get that in.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And Rhino, did you hear that Baby has been confirmed as one of the
artists. Yeah, the baby. Yeah, he's been confirmed for one of the artists.
Yeah,
for 24 Hours of Hip Hop, as well as Scarlett. I heard
it's gonna be crazy.
Scarlett.
Man.
Yeah.
That's gonna be crazy out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So I don't know, Rhino. You may have to.
Scarlett. That's gonna be wild.
Yeah, you may have to get there early, man. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. Let me ask you a question, Rhino. What do you think about setting up this year and setting up a space, maybe do some interviews when people coming off stage? What do you think about that?
If it's possible, if we can make it happen.
All right. Because I'm thinking, do we want to, really engage in being involved to really set it up so that, you could talk to the artists, this time around, coming off, sitting down, having conversations with them, but
I think I would definitely have to speak with Hakeem also about that, because he's gonna be right there with them. So somehow we got to work that through him as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It would be a conversation. We'd have to try to figure out how do we do that. You know what I mean? To be able to have a conversation and be able to go live while you guys are doing that. For that hour. Down there on that particular night. That Friday. So try to figure out how we make that happen. All right. I just wanted to see if I could get your buy-in. That's all.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. All right.
I got questions.
All right. All right, Zai. So look, man, we done, brother. We want to thank everybody for coming. It was a
very good night.
Big show. So let's go on and thank all of the people, Zaid, who came through, man.
Dayvon Love, League of Beautiful Struggle, straight out of Baltimore. Chino Ortiz and Sammy Giaz from Returning Citizens. Lisa Davis on her way back to court over some bullshit. You're just keeping it real. Who am I forgetting? Who am I missing? That everybody? Yeah, that's everybody, right?
That's everybody. And then of course we got the
return of DJ Rhino
back in the pocket. You know what I mean? So appreciate getting the original crew back together. It's always a pleasure. So listen, y'all, we thank everybody.
Donna, man?
I don't know. I called her. I haven't heard from her. You know what I mean? So I called her.
It's been a couple weeks now. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't answer. So not really sure, man. So, I guess she'll reach out to us when she's ready. I'm not really sure what's going on, But if you can, Rhino, reach out to her, man. See if she, pick up for you, man. Let us know what's going on, because I haven't heard from her.
All right. Yeah, I haven't either.
All right. Yep.
Right.
So, but nonetheless, we're gonna shout her out tonight. We shout out one of our co-hosts. We shout out Donna, John, and of course, Asia, and all of the other co-hosts that come through. We shout out all of them tonight, and our brother Bashir, one of the original founders. We shout out our brother.
A recent article was just done on Bashir for the Legend, and Andy Richardson. It's a good article too.
Yep. You can go to our Facebook page and at All Politics and Local. The article is there, and I wrote a little piece that talks about 31 years ago, how he went from Carlos Cortez to Bashir Akinyele Muhammad. So might want to check that out and see one of the articles he wrote 31 years ago. So you get a chance to see he's not new to this, he's true to this. So again, folks, we thank y'all for coming through All Politics and Local. We'll see y'all next week. Of course, next week is the Mayor's Forum with our beloved brother, Mayor Baraka, or we like to say Governor Baraka. He'll be on next week. We'll get a chance to chop it up with him and talk about after the election, and of course, the State of the Black agenda that he's helping to organize in the state of New Jersey, so that we can put some, I don't know if we call them demands, but we want to put some of the things that are important to Black folk before the Democratic nominees' choice for governor. So we want to put some things before her. So he's going to be here next week, and we'll have our lineup out. We'll talk to him next week. So we'll all catch you then. As my brother Zaid said, we'll catch him Wednesday.
In the whirlwind.
Catch y'all in
Don't
the world.
stop.
All right.
Peace.
Good show, y'all. Good show. Yeah, don't stop.